Alexa, what was in the briefcase in Pulp Fiction?
She might be able to
Here is
answer.
an answer from an Alexa Answers contributor that I translated. In the Pulp Fiction movie Briefcase, there was the soul of Marcellus Wallace.
No reaction. Poker face over here.
Every fucking week, new movies get released. How does anyone ever see these? There are too many movies.
Welcome to There Are Too Many Movies, family.
Hi.
This week on There Are Too Many Movies, we have two very special guests. You know him as the writer and director of Killing Zoe and Rules of Attraction, also the co-writer of Pulp Fiction, Oscar winner. Roger Avary is here, and
Hi.
Gala of the Video Archives podcast.
I'm back.
You are back. We're at the veritable fourth guest or fourth host of There Are Too Many Movies.
Correct.
Gala Avary.
I'm
Yes.
like the rotating. I show up sometimes. You never
Yeah.
know when I'm coming, but I'm here.
Yeah.
You've only done one episode, and I feel like we've known you for years at this point.
I know it's kind of funny how quickly we just all meshed together.
I know. And now Roger's here. Roger, thank you so much for coming out.
Thank you. Actually, thank you for. I was just about to thank you for having me and having us.
And
on,
also
on the
not
show.
only having us, but also helping to kind of sponsor the two screenings that we did at the Texas Theater for Killing Zoe and Rules of Attraction.
For
we
sure.
really,
Thank you
really
for that.
appreciated it.
I mean, we got to talk about it. To not only screen at the Texas Theater, but to do 4K restorations of your films from the actual reels of Killing Zoe and the Rules of Attraction. That must have been amazing to see on screen.
Well, in the case of Killing Zoe, I hadn't seen the movie projected on a screen since.
Oh yeah, we were trying to do the math on this.
Yeah, I was trying to think. Has it
Sure
been,
it's been released
like 20 years or 25 years? Like maybe even more.
Wow.
And even when the movie did screen, it generally screened on smaller venues than that. And except for in London, it played in a larger theater, places like that. But for the most part, it was overwhelming actually for me,
Especially watching Rules.
and
I
the
think.
way we did the transfer. This guy Peter Almendaz, I think that's how you pronounce his name.
his handle on Twitter is NC17.
Shout out
Peter,
NC-17.
is it
Shout out
Peter
NC-17?
NC-17 or is it?
Well, it's just NC17, but he goes by Peter NC17, and he's this guy that like literally has been rogue, just like scanning film prints and then just being like pirating them, like releasing them for the public. Like, here's the link. If you want the 4K of Barry Lyndon, here's the link.
Wow.
Just posting his felonies.
And somehow getting away with it. But he contacted us, or had been trying to contact Roger about Killing Zoe. And when we finally got in contact with him, we were like, hey, this looks pretty good.
He had basically started, he got a hold of a print of the film, and I suddenly became interested because of where he sourced the print, which was from Technicolor Rome. And the thing about Killing Zoe is when we made that movie, in 1992, as a filmmaker, the movie was a very, very low budget, at least back then it was considered a low budget. Now it's like, I'd be lucky to have a budget like that probably. The movie was about 1.3 million, out the door. And it was...
You fought really hard to get it shot on film.
Yeah,
But specifically,
I
the
had
kind
to
of film.
You have to make all these compromises along the way. It's like you're building a house and you have these visions of what it's supposed to be, but you just can't afford everything. And so you have to start making compromises. And one of the compromises that everybody, is told to make back then was shoot your film on Fuji instead of Kodak. And there was this thing among...
Because it's cheaper.
It was just cheaper. It was cheaper, per frame. It only cost, it's like a cent less or a quarter of a cent less per frame or something crazy like that. And so filmmakers back then, we would fight to get Kodak. We would give up our own money to be able to shoot on Kodak because, we're trying to make a movie that's going to compete with a studio film and stuff like that, at least in Europe. Or Asia, where they didn't really have for example, when Reservoir Dogs came out in France, they didn't look at it the way America looked at it. Like America looked at it like this is a little independent movie, did really good in college towns, but like Leprechaun did better at the box office.
Shout out Leprechaun.
Yeah, and I love Leprechaun, but Leprechaun totally
In the Hood is probably my favorite.
Yeah,
the
yeah.
fourth one. Yeah.
Whenever we bring it up, it has to be
smoked Reservoir Dogs back in the day.
That's crazy.
However, in Europe, they looked at it like this is just a movie from Hollywood. Like this is just like any other movie. You know, they didn't have that that mental barrier in their heads, and so the movie was received, you know, as well as any big movie that was coming out at that time. And so I fought really hard to get Kodak stock and to process it at a decent lab. Then, when the film was released in the United States, the distributor, to save money, and they only made a small amount of prints because the movie had a very small release, you know, just in college towns, basically. And they printed it to Fuji stock. And the problem with that is the emulsions are inverted. You know, instead of red, green, blue, it's like blue, green, red, I think, or something like that. And so the emulsions are different. So when you're doing your processing, you have to go through all this like wedging in order to get everything correct color-wise. And at that point, the movie's in the hands of the distributor, and I was never fully 100% happy. However, in France, Italy, Eagle Films in Italy, Metropolitan Film Export in France, or Davis Films in France, and then I think it was Gaga in Japan. Which, by the way, in Japan, they did all the very, very best video transfers back then. You know, if you're ever looking on VHS or Laserdisc, like try to get a Japanese transfer of something, because those are absolutely the best transfers of the period. Anyhow, the movie never looked 100% right. However, it did look correct in France and in Italy, and in particular in Italy, even though the venues in Italy weren't really... you know, the projection venues that the movie was playing in weren't quite as
They were all outdoors.
yeah, well, not all of them, but
Broad
yeah,
daylight.
they tended to be smaller theaters. They tended to be outdoors. I mean, the Italians just they do it different. It's hot. The movie came out, I think, in the summer, and it's hot in Italy, and everybody goes outside. And they go outside in the movies, but sometimes the sun hasn't fully set.
And those are things you're not thinking about when
You're not thinking about that when you're making it. I had never made a feature film before, and
period. So
this was all like a discovery for me,
right.
And
So in the States, are you like, this isn't my movie? Like, stop this.
No. It's like you accept it with, nothing. As a filmmaker, you scrutinize your work more than anybody else does. And I see things in it that, I wish I could like change this, or I wish I could change that. But the fact of the matter is, at a certain point, you just you just let it go. It has to be let go. And so what this guy Peter did was he sourced a print actually from Technicolor Rome, and
so that means it's on the right stock.
And then he was doing this thing with all of his transfers that he was doing, these pirate transfers he's doing of sometimes big movies. Is he was transferring from prints as opposed to going back to what they call now the best elements. And the only reason they call them the best elements now is because the prints have all gone magenta or faded a little bit.
Right.
Except the Killing Zoe print was in pretty good shape. And so he did this transfer. And what I love about it is he's, when we used to transfer things to VHS or DVDs, not so much on Blu-rays anymore, but on DVDs and VHS, there was all this attention paid to, getting it to look exactly the way it looked when projected. And Hollywood had gotten pretty good. We were at peak cinema by the time, I was making my films and everything. I mean, so when movies were being transferred to tape, you see the character of the film. And by the character, I mean, you see a little bit of dust and you see the change marks, the cigarette burns, as they're sometimes called, in the upper right. And what you're looking at was a very, very accurate representation of what it would be like in a movie theater. It's just on your TV. And they had really worked it out perfectly. Well, prints have started to fade and go magenta, and studios sometimes don't care about their movies. I can't remember what movie was it that we were just talking about that the studio didn't even know that they owned, and they don't have any prints of it. It was just it's, even though they own it, they just don't care about it. It's a catalog title. Right. Frequently. And so no love or attention is generally given to them, and elements become lost and faded. And pretty soon they're like, well, we're going to go back to the original elements or the best elements. And frequently now that's either the interpositive, the internegative, or sometimes, and I actually prefer not to go back to the original negative. Everybody's obsessed with going back to the original negative, but
especially for like physical media transfers, right? That's
for sure these days now when you're going to Blu-ray. But it's problematic for me because there's this obsession with modern telecine to get everything perfect, more perfect than the original projection. And so what you're ending up now is with transfers of movies, and like the recent transfer of the David Lynch Dune film comes to mind. I think Fincher 7 is going to be a difficult movie in the future to retransfer. I mean, Fincher is around and he'll oversee it and he'll make sure that it looks correct, and he'll do his very best. But the fact of the matter is, from the original negative of 7 to the release print, there were all these silver bypass processes involved that were using the chemical processes of the lab. And this was a process that Darius Kanji kind of originally started employing for let's see, Jean Caro and I can't even remember the other guy's name now, but Caro and Jeunet and Caro, and all of their early films were frequently done with this kind of process. And then with 7, he just went to the extreme with it. But without all of those chemical processes in between, those layers of degradation, those like 7 layers of degradation going to prints. And in those days, DPs, they would shoot the movie knowing, not just what the original negative would look like. They're not just trying to get the negative to look right. They're thinking about how it's going to go through its process. It's many different processes, from original negative to interpositive to internegatives to film prints to release prints
to the projectionist's hands.
To the projectionist's hands. And so
as if movies aren't hard enough, dude.
Right.
Like, just have to think about everything else, and then you get a page of like the Kubrick projectionist notes type thing. It's just like
where you like. I think the story is that Sam Peckinpah during the Wild Bunch, he's specifically made notes. He's one of the first guys to write like these detailed notes, basically saying, listen, the gunshots in the film, they're meant to be loud. They're going to boom the speaker, blah, blah, blah. He sent out a note with it. And he went to the movie theater, like in New York or something, and is watching it. And he's like, what happened to my gunshots? Like, every time there's a gunshot, it sounds like low and muffled. And so he went up and he talked to the projectionist, and the projectionist was like, oh, look, I'm so glad you're here. Look, I made a chart of your film and I've mapped out where all the gunshots are. And so what I'm doing is I'm sitting here and I'm, monitoring the audio as it goes. And so I'll turn it down right because it'll blow out the speakers. And so I'm turning it down. And so the projectionist was basically mixing the movie on his own.
oh my
That's
god,
crazy.
No.
And so this is probably one of the reasons why guys like Kubrick and guys like Peckinpah, these guys who were releasing numerous films, like they knew that at the end of the day, there's just some guy in a room who you're putting all your faith into.
yeah.
And that is something that's kind of in some ways gone away now that we're doing
It's totally gone.
digital projection.
Well, except
Exactly.
for
Their
except for actually
playlists.
last night though, because on
Yes.
our digital DCP, which is of the film print, Chad in the booth was actually doing the real changes on the digital DCP, which I don't even know how he was doing
So
that.
the DCP was generated, and we in preparation for it. I guess the guy he's in Canada. He
Maybe that's how he's skirting the law.
yeah.
Yeah.
Probably.
They're like, this fucking
I would
guy,
think
we
the
can't
law
get
would
to
be
him.
think the law would be even harder there.
Probably, yeah.
He's probably on a boat like an actual pirate.
yeah, right. Same
And-
with the Pirate Bay guys.
Yeah.
Well,
The great thing about it though is when he did the Killing Zoe print is that he took
Oh.
it from
the DCP.
Yeah.
Right. So the DCP, he gets it. And we receive the DCP like literally on the day that we're supposed to
to
project.
show the movie. Yeah.
Crazy.
And we look at it, and somehow some error has been made, and it's got all the heads and the tails of the reels, and so every reel is winding out. It's not normally a DCP will do the reel changes for you. And you let it know in the metadata of the DCP. DCP stands for Digital Cinema Package. And as you guys probably know, but maybe other people
No, I'm glad
don't.
you're saying that.
Yeah.
For the people at home, because we do
And
that.
it used to be that
It covers it,
Yeah,
for sure.
it used to be that you would like send film prints to the movie theater, and the print would stay at the movie theater while they were showing the movie. But now what they do is they send a drive, kind of a crew drive, it's called, and it gets plugged into the server at the thing, and then the server uploads to the projector, and then the projector projects, and it's meant to kind of replicate a film experience, the kind of digital files. The digital files on a DCP are made up of still images. They're JPEG 2000 still images. And so you have however many frames there are in my film. That's how many pictures are on that drive.
Wow.
That's crazy.
They're actual image sequences.
And so then it's actually flashing the images up on the screen as fast as possible in an attempt to replicate what film does.
Yeah.
And so anyhow, normally the DCP will say, okay, this is where the change mark happens. The next one isn't the reel. It's supposed to, just like how the reel change is supposed to go on a film, you're supposed to jump into the next reel. Well, something had happened to the metadata along the way, and it was incorrect. And so what we ended up doing is the guys at the Texas Theater and Chad. I mean, I think everybody there was
Everyone
involved.
there was involved,
But I'm
yeah.
going to call out Chad in particular because I suspect it was him. He's like the super projectionist that you wish you had back in the day. Like he's somebody who cares. He's like a lifer projectionist.
He does.
He
And he
is.
travels around to project.
Actually, it turns out that he's done the 24-hour marathons in Los Angeles, like with all my 16 millimeter friends. Like,
Really?
He's the guy that's run the projection.
I mean, I would say Chad is probably one of like a very small pool of people in the United States that are still capable to do
Well, because now they're all sort of playlists. Like,
well, yeah, now like it's like somebody pushes a button. It's not even pushing a button. It's generally programmed
Yes.
to happen on its own. And so, the servers are just handling everything. And the guys who own, multiplexes, they have an iPhone that has an app on it, and they can actually monitor what's going on in the
Right.
theater and say, oh, we can switch let's add a server to that movie. And they can actually do stuff just like,
Well,
on
I
their
remember
phones.
once we were watching Mission Impossible in the theaters, or I think it was Mission Impossible, and the screen was like desynced. It was really weird. And so we were like, what are we going to do about this? Because there's no one really in the booth. And Roger's like, I'll just go up there. And he just went up in the booth and just pushed the buttons and fixed it. And everyone's
wow.
like, woo, yay.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's like, I used to be a projectionist for Empire Pictures, the company of Charlie Band. It was one of my first jobs in the industry.
But it was a great screening at the Texas Theater. And the fact that
Chad handled
it.
he handled,
Shouts to Chad.
which is something that I've never heard of being done. I've never seen it done before. But he was actually doing the reel changes, like,
pressing the button.
I don't even know how he was doing it, but I'm assuming he's pushing a button.
Yeah, jumping to the next image sequence.
Yeah,
I
and so it
guess is how they
actually,
split up the reels, I would
really
assume.
did represent, like watching that movie, even though it was a digital projection of the film, it actually accurately represented what that movie was like in its release,
which was so cool to see.
Right up to
the
reel changes being done, and he's guesstimating to make sure that it's correct. And
it's a great experience actually for those that like have never seen something on 35 before, but all of a sudden you're able to go and see a digital version of a 35 print in 4K. It's really kind of a weird, how does that fit together?
It was
it's
so
almost
unconventional, but so awesome.
Yeah.
It had so much character from like right when the titles come up and you got a little gate weave.
yeah, there's a
like
little gate weave, a little jitter.
I was like, let's fucking
That's the goosebump stuff. And dust, and like you said, cigarette burns as well. Like that to me is, when you see that, it puts you in a different time and a different place, and I'm there for it.
One of the things that people don't realize it, but what they love and associate with films is not the perfection of cinema. It's not trying to make, a movie that came out it's not trying to make, Scarface, or maybe that's a bad example, maybe an older film. It's not trying to make like All That Heaven Allows look like a movie that's shot on digital video today.
Right.
I mean, they're just trying to make it as good as they can for that format today. And it's just not the same.
Shout out True
frequent-
Lies and James Cameron.
Yeah, and they clean, and they're cleaning things up too much. And sometimes it's okay. Like sometimes that's a good ethic to employ, and everybody should, try to make everything as good as possible. But as people are slowly forgetting what, and thankfully you guys like live in a town that has, a theater, the Texas Theater, that is projecting 35 millimeter movies. And
not every town has that though. Which is
not
it's
everybody has
unfortunate.
that.
It's unfortunate that doesn't happen, but the fact that they're still doing it, and they still show digital. I mean,
Yeah, they
have
showed-
new films all the time, and like we said, last night was a 4K digital of a
film print.
So I mean, it's still digital, but the essence is there.
The essence is there.
I think on the initial run, Eggers is, I think, was it you that told me the Eggers film, the Nosferatu movie, was originally a digital projection, but then after a while in the release, I guess now we're in the Academy run.
Right.
The Texas Theater, did they get its second run?
They
the
ended up
film?
getting a print, and so now they have the print on their platters, and so
Amazing.
The thing is, there's a difference between not just a difference. There is, we assimilate physiologically our media, in a physiological sense. We assimilate media as we view it, and the medium itself has an effect on how we're taking in the information. When you see a movie, actually, I should say when you see a movie shot on film, projected on film, what you're looking at are still images that are being, through a process of, film is a strip with perforations, as you know, on either side, and there's a claw that grabs it and drags it into place, a registration that occurs, and then a shutter that's wiping. And this all happens, this mechanical process all happens over the course of a 24th of a second. And this is, what this means is that when you're watching a movie, what you're watching are still images. And that's what they're trying to replicate on the DCPs. You're watching these still images, and your mind kind of assembles these still images using beta cycles in your brain, and it puts them all together. And beta cycles, you're an active participant in creating the illusion of motion. You're looking at still images, but your brain is assembling them and creating the illusion of motion, and it activates beta cycles in your brain. Well, when you watch video, it has a different effect on you. Video uses refresh rates, and even modern digital projection, even laser projection, is using refresh rates to refresh the pixels because it's completely different system. It's not light traveling, it's different. It's just a physiologically different system. And because it's using refresh rates, and less so in digital projection, but definitely in raster projection, like on VHS or DVDs or even Blu-rays or most home televisions for sure.
Do beta tapes hit your beta cycles? Because that
those when you're dealing with refresh rates,
that didn't deserve that much.
I like how he just went straight over it. He's like, nope.
No,
not at all.
Not at all.
Not at all. Because what they're doing is it's activating alpha cycles in your brain. And
false advertising.
Alpha cycles are relaxation cycles. And this is one of the reasons why people can sit down and binge watch television, is that it relaxes your body. That's why in a movie, when you're watching a film being projected, because you're an active participant, people can't handle more than 2 hours. You get tired. You actually get physically exhausted on a kind of deep level of assimilating that media. But with television, you're activating alpha cycles in your brain. And this is one of the reasons that we can sit down and watch lots and lots and lots of television. And it's even more insidious with 120 cycles per second on a cell phone,
But
which actually is activating alpha cycles on everybody on the planet at the moment, which is like kind of we're talking soma at this point.
I'm sure that's fine.
Soma.
I'm sure it's fine.
I'm sure that has no repercussions for our future.
It's fine, but when you consider how the effect that it's had on cinema, what happened was we ended up with commercial directors, guys like Adrian Lyne, Tony Scott, Ridley Scott, guys of that era, trying to activate the audience in the commercials that they're doing. And what that meant was suddenly they're doing everything that they can to get people to activate, to not be in a relaxation cycle while watching a commercial. That's why suddenly there's all these like doves flying through frames and fans in the background and curtains blowing and rapid cuts.
Yeah.
That's why the rapid cuts. And they brought their cinematic vocabulary, their commercial vocabulary into cinema. And suddenly we ended up with kind of an entire generation employing these cinematic techniques that were invented basically or employed originally because it was television that they were shooting on. And so it has had an effect on how we make movies. Not only that, when you shoot something digitally, you are 180 you're 180 degrees in the other direction of what you're doing. When you shoot on film, you have the gate, the light travels through the lens, it travels through the gate. And while doing that, it travels through the celluloid. It exposes the various layers of silver within it. And and then it's all held in the dark. You keep it in the dark. You send it to the castle where the alchemist puts it into a
bubbling cauldron.
A bubbling cauldron. And there's this mysterious process. And then out of that emerges these little stained glass windows the next day. And you are able then to kind of sit and watch your film. Okay. And we had this. Now it's different. Okay. When you're shooting on digital video, light comes through the lens and it hits a gold sensor and then bounces off the gold sensor and goes back into the lens. And this has an effect of flattening the image. And by flattening the image, you have less depth. And so because of that, DPs have been starting to do things to try to gain back that lost depth. And so you'll see movies where they're using excessive amounts of smoke to smoke up a room. People always used, especially Tony and Ridley and guys like that, they were fond of using a lot of smoke. But,
something to add an extra depth of layer.
The hazers.
Well, and not only that, but they would take, we had an old adage when you're making a movie, when you're outdoors and you're making a movie at the end, or when you're making a film, when you're shooting on film, at the end of the day, when you go home, the back of your neck should be sunburned. And it's because the sun is always behind you on your subject. Well, in order to get more depth, people have had to turn around the camera and shoot into the sun to get lens flares. And that's why we see so many lens flares appearing in movies.
You see that a lot in like Wicked. I mean, just a movie that's nominated for Best Picture currently and Best Cinematography for one, you see all of that. I mean, granted, it's all digital, but it's all behind them.
But also notice how even though it's all digital, they're still putting lens flares in to the all digital stuff because we're so used to seeing lens flares anyway.
Yeah, well, and also it's helping to create, because the movie's shot on digital. I think it's shot on digital.
Yeah. It's shot digitally.
I've only seen
in the
no way
big
it's
digital
not.
sphere of just like stage work.
There's no way they have a whole soundstage filled with green and they're like, let's shoot this on 35 millimeter.
Yeah.
There's no way that's happening.
Well, okay, so to kind of piggyback on what you're saying and what we talked about a few days ago and something that you wanted to bring up on the show, are we still making movies today? Are there...
Yeah, we're making movies.
We're making movies.
We're not making films, but we're making movies.
We're not making films, but we're making movies. So then what is a movie?
What is the delineation?
There are too many movies, but there are not enough films.
Ooh, I like it. True.
So I look at these two formats.
Copyright. There are too many movies. By the way.
I look at the, I look at formats. I'm a little bit agnostic, to be honest. It's not like I think film is the be all end all. It has its faults. And we know what those faults are. But it's a different medium. And what I take offense to a little bit, what bothers me, I don't take offense. Actually, I'm not offended at all. What kind of causes my hairs to go on end a little bit is everybody saying, oh, it's the same. And it looks the same. And it is the same. But I look at it and I think most movies now look like, Venezuelan telenovelas. They don't look like movies to me. They look like television, projected on a screen. Okay. And this is something most people aren't affected by. In fact, I think most people probably like the new look of things. And, I'm not anti-video, and I don't even call it digital cinema. I call it video because that's what it is. It's just high resolution video. And I'm not against it. I think it's just like oils and watercolors. Just because watercolors came into existence and there was this great kind of painting renaissance, so this emergence of watercolors that happened in the 1800s, suddenly everyone was like, forget oil. Like, we want watercolor. Like, they're both paintings. Like, they're both a form of painting. They're both paint, but one is oil and one is water. They're opposites, in fact. And you can do things with watercolors that you cannot do with oil. And why would you try? And you can do things with oil that you just cannot do with watercolors. And why would you try? And the two can exist side by side. In a brief period when watercolors became en vogue, in England especially, nobody wanted oil anymore. It was all watercolor. There was just like, it was the new thing.
Right.
And well, just imagine if just oil went away forever as a result of that, oil paintings. And so why does it have to be that way? And why can't we just say these are two different kinds of mediums? I mean,
you can still tell a story either way.
Yeah,
you can still tell your narrative.
Ultimately, you're using the best tools. But
Right.
I don't feel that making a period piece on video is like it immediately makes the movie feel inauthentic, even when the movie is authentic. I recently saw the Horizon films, the Kevin Costner.
Yeah, we were at the Horizon 2 in Santa Barbara International Film Festival.
And, I think the production is spectacular. They spent a fortune on the production, and it looks like it. He spent a fortune.
He spent his own money on this.
Yeah, he spent his own money on this, and why couldn't he just go that one little extra bit and shoot it on film so that we would really have the feeling of the kind of
Old West,
the old vernacular of the Western, which he's grabbing onto. But it's because everybody is telling him along the way, oh no, it's cheaper to do it this way. It's better to do it this way. Well, it's better for the distributor. It makes it much better for the distributor, but it doesn't make it better for the filmmaker. Like when I made my first movie, when I made Killing Zoe, I had no video tap, right? There was no video on the camera. And I wasn't able to see the dailies until the next day. What I did was I would stand next to the camera and I would look at the actors and I would focus on what my job was, which was taking care of the actors. And I would tell my DP, in that case, it was Tom Richmond. I would tell him, what I want. Like, I want it to be a Leone, or I want it to be,
a cowboy.
I want it to be a Kubrick with 0-point perspective. I want this, I want that. I'm describing what I want. And then he would line it up and I'd look at the shot and I'd go, yeah, that seems right. Okay, then I'm focusing on the actors and I'm focusing on performance. And then when the take is done, I would turn to him and say, did we get it? And he would say, yeah, we got it. Or let's do another. Or, you know what? I kind of didn't catch it. Or he went that way when he should have gone that way. Let's do it again. And you just you have this working relationship. And there was something very pure about that. Then I made Rules of Attraction. I had, video tap, and I very rarely used it. I kind of worked the same way, but, I used it a little bit more. Then I shot a couple of movies recently that Gala produced that were where we shot on digital video, and it was just the economics of it. It just had to be this way.
Was that Lucky Day?
Lucky Day, and I did another movie, a French film called La Voix Humaine, The Human Voice.
Which is unreleased, and who knows where that will ever be. Maybe never.
Why is that?
It turns out, so the movie is an adaptation of a play by Jean Cocteau, a one-woman play, and Elsa Zilberstein, who's a French actress, basically came to me, and she wanted to make this... Azadine Alaya, the fashion designer, basically told her, you need to play this part. You need to play this character from this Cocteau play called La Voix Humaine, the human voice. But La Voix in French is also a road. It's like a highway also. And so it has all these kind of double meanings. Anyhow, it's my French is not perfect, and the movie is in French. And it's a one-woman play, and so it's just this performance thing. We shot it very quickly. It was like, I don't know, maybe
I think it was like a 3 or 4 day shoot.
Yeah, it was like a 3 or 4 day shoot. Well, actually, we had more than that. I had let's see, in total, I think I had about
I think you had 7 days
Yeah, I
in
think
total.
7
I think we
days
did
in
like
total.
4 days in, and then you had like the day out.
Yeah. I had the day out, and most of that stuff out I didn't want to use. Anyhow, before Lucky Day, I just did this little movie just to do it. It was like a film of caprice, a film just to make a film. And it was a movie that, like, anyhow, we made the film. And we had the authorization from the Fondation Jean Cocteau, which is the Jean Cocteau Foundation. And right as we finished the film, Almodovar called them up and said, I want to do Le Voix Humaine with Tilda Swinton. And so then they said, we no longer authorize your film for release.
Damn.
And my financier was a French company, and they can't violate by law the foundation because of author rights. And so the movie is not released. And actually, this has happened before to Peter Medak, the British director who did The Ruling Class and Men's Club. He made Le Voix Humaine as well, and same thing happened to him.
And then,
so,
like, no, Roger Avery's making it, so you're not going to do that. Actually.
It's just a domino
yeah,
effect.
exactly. It's just the Jean Cocteau domino effect. Anyhow, that movie, I am so proud of that film. One, because of how affordably we made it. Two, because it's pure performance. And three, it's a very complicated and deep project and multi-layered. And it was a great way for me to kind of jump back into filmmaking and kind of get myself
Back in the saddle.
Back in the saddle,
but not
directing
only
again.
that, I mean, when we ended up doing it on digital video, as Roger calls it, and he had the video tap, this thing called Video Village forms around the camera, where all of a sudden everyone is watching and everyone is kind of giving notes.
Yeah.
The producer's sitting back there saying, "What the heck are you doing?"
Yeah, suddenly you
Doesn't see the vision.
Yeah, with Video Village, which is what we call it, they erect a tent on set. I mean, not in France, but on Lucky Day they did. They erect a tent on set and they set up all these chairs and everybody sits around in their Canada Goose jackets,
Drinking coffee,
drinking
and,
their
like,
Starbucks, or what would they be drinking?
Tim
Their
Hortons.
Tim Hortons. They're drinking their Tim Hortons.
They're Timmies.
Oh, this is all fucked up, bud.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
And they're watching it on a big, LED monitor, and it's being color corrected in real time by some guy in a van somewhere else. And
His van was pretty nice.
yeah, and it's all
Shouts to
excellent
that
and
van.
everything. But
Shout
what
out.
the effective result of all of this is I still have to run back and forth from Video Village to the actors. And so I'm never
Oh, God.
like hanging out, having Starbucks with everybody. I'm like doing my job and running back and forth. And in the meantime, everybody's like, oh yeah, you got it. Suddenly you have this chorus to deal with. And the kind of voodoo mysticism is removed from the process. And now all of a sudden they're like giving you their studio notes and broadcaster notes and producer notes. And all these notes are coming in while you're still shooting.
Wow.
And, I just don't like it. I just don't like that process.
Yeah.
And so I think the answer for me is just make smaller movies that can't afford Video Village.
Yeah. We don't have a budget. We went with Fuji, so we don't have a budget. Or Kodak, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
We went with Kodak, so no Video Village, actually. That's like leaning over a chef and being like, I wouldn't do that. And it's just like a bowl of mix. Like,
Yeah.
But I guarantee that happens.
Yeah.
I guarantee in big corporate restaurants that happens.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You're a hired chef. You're coming in. It's someone else's menu,
Right.
and they have you. You're doing their menu, and I mean, I guess in a restaurant, you're only as good as your last meal.
Right.
So maybe that's a good process to have.
Yeah.
And and this is okay for some instances. Like I said, not everything needs to be film. Shot on film. And actually, part and parcel to that is I started looking at, I became friends with a bunch of the people who own like multiplexes, who privately own multiplexes. And I started, working with them during COVID. They were trying to figure out, like, what are we going to do? What are we going to do about movies, our movie theaters?
So here's the thing: we have a lot of movies that exist already. You know,
Yeah.
these Barco, projectors, these amazing, and they are amazing. They're fantastic. These amazing Barco projectors are able to do 120 frames per second. They're able to do 60 frames per second per eye. They're able to crank up the lumens, and they have.
Understand how that's possible.
They have
per eyeball.
Yeah, they
Just
have.
in case you don't have one, it's like you still need 60.
And 60 frames per second is the sweet spot. At least that's what Douglas Trumbull told me. He said, we experimented with higher frame rates for show scan, and we experimented with, cheaper frame rates, and there was a process called MaxiVision 48, which was twice the frame rate of film, and then you would still be able to print a film print from it for a 24 frame per second print. But they were able to make a 40. I think what's his name?
Peter Jackson.
But he shot on video for his. He shot on digital video.
Right.
That's weird.
And
it was 48. Right?
Yeah, it was 48 frames per second. But
and also the new Avatar, the Avatar 2 movie, I think they also did increased frame rates in some sequences.
I think you're right about
Some and not all?
Some, but not all. Because it
Really?
was like in some sequences they wanted increase and some they didn't. I think it was part of the action sequences. They did increased frame rate to make you feel. I hated it.
Yeah.
I hated
Can't
it
they just
so much.
up the shutter speed or something?
Just the whole thing just makes my
I don't
head
know. I didn't go to film school.
I hadn't made a film yet, and I'm still not certain how this happened, but I got to know Douglas Trumbull early on, and he invited me down to his warehouse in Marina del Rey when he was inventing ShowScan, when it was just happening. And, he was basically saying, how can we take film to its ultimate,
The zenith. Yeah.
the zenith of what film can be. And so they did a massive amount of experimentation to figure out how much can, a person comfortably take in, information wise, frame rate wise.
I would hate to be in that.
Oh, God.
No, yeah.
that control.
You're Alex from Clockwork Orange.
Like
but
little.
Basically, and his determination was at 60 frames per second, and that this 60 frames per second sweet spot was it. And so he was using, I think, a 70 millimeter film at 60 frames per second, and they had developed a kind of an air suction thing instead of it was actually remarkable what they did. And and what the effect was of show scan. And I don't know that, have any of you ever,
This is all new to me, dude.
it's all old stuff. The effect was like he took me into the theater and they run their demo film, which Garrett Graham was in.
Oh, I love Garrett Graham.
And Garrett
So
Graham,
it has to be shot for this.
yeah, it had to be shot for
Okay,
this.
okay.
And so the projectors, and it had to be projected in a special projector venue as well, the show scan venue. And so the movie begins and it was kind of like a normal movie, and then kind of looks like a normal movie, and then suddenly the film breaks and melts, and suddenly you're presented the white screen.
Oh, they pull a Wizard of Oz on you.
Yeah, and then suddenly a light goes on, the projector turns off, and a light goes on behind the screen. And it's the screen is like a muslin that you can see through, like a silk that you can see through. And it's behind the screen, you can see the kind of, the storage room behind the screen of the theater. And there's boxes and, film cans and stuff like that back there. And Garrett Graham comes out and he starts talking to the audience. He's like, I'm sorry. The film broke, but we're going to work on it and da-da-da-da. But I'm going to entertain you in the meantime. And it really looked like we were looking in through a window. It was 3D without things coming out at you. It was 3D that you could look into this other universe. And then they ran the actual show scan demo. And it was I'd start sweating, in moments. I'd be watching it and my body would immediately start just sweating from what I was
This is alien
seeing.
technology.
Yeah,
This is what they have.
Nicole,
Was it a train coming towards you?
they had there was a race car sequence where this guy was driving down this mountain road, and it was harrowing. It was looking through a window in this, and it looked real. It was as real as anything I've ever seen. And it was extraordinary. I left that and I was like, that is the future. That is the most incredible, mind-blowing, and still to this day, incredible, mind-blowing thing I've ever seen. And
Do you just go home and punch your TV after that? It's I can't watch anything else anymore.
it was just an excitement that this was what the future was going to be, that he was pushing the ceiling of what film was capable of being. And it was just so thrilling and so exciting. And then the studios were just like, no, it's It's like 3 times the cost film wise.
It always comes
Plus
down
it's
to that.
plus it's 70 millimeters, so it's probably more like 13 times the cost.
Right, running at a faster frame
Running
rate,
at a
so it's
yeah,
burning
and
more film.
you're burning 3 times the film, close to 3 times the film. It was more expensive. It required retrofitting theaters at a huge expense. Eventually, he teamed up, I think, with iWorks, which was Ub Iwerks was the he's the actual guy who created Mickey Mouse for Disney, and Disney kind of took all the credit. And he used to even have Ub Iwerks draw. He was like, "Oh, somebody wants me to draw Mickey Mouse. Would you draw him for me? And then I'll sign it." And so that was the Disney way. And iWorks was the real genius behind like Snow White. These multi-plane Oxford animation camera systems that were done where they had like all these layers of depth going on and moving independently from each other. That was all Ub Iwerks. You know, he was like a mathematician artist, engineer, mathematician artist. He's like one of the most incredible guys. Anyhow, he's been long dead, but his company, Iwerks, they were, still going, and they were actually a part of Disney, and they got spun off and they started doing like attractions in Las Vegas. So Showscan basically lived in Las Vegas for a while with seats that kind of moved and
4D experiences.
4D experiences.
Yeah.
And then video came along and it just kind of went away.
That's what happens to most of these experimental formats. They end up becoming
They all go to
side
Vegas.
shows.
Everything goes to Vegas.
Yeah, the dome.
Yeah, what happens in Vegas, stays in Vegas.
Right. Yeah.
One of the other problems he told me was that because you're taking in 3 times the information, you're seeing 3 times the detail. And because, frequently in a movie, we'll say, oh, we got a little bit of shine on this. Well, I'll just put some black tape on it. And, with film, nobody will really notice it because of the softness of the film, the grain, it tends to get hidden, and you're able to, things don't have to look 100% perfect, and the DP can light it a certain way and make it look good. Well, with 3 times the detail,
right,
you've got 3 times the scrutiny, and it means that even on production, there's a greater expense to take into account. I suspect, and this may or may not be the case, but if Peter Jackson shot those Lord of the Rings movies, those later ones on digital, and I think he did, I can't say with 100%, but I'm sure somebody will comment on that.
I'll edit it out if it's wrong.
Yeah, or not. I don't mind being wrong.
We're wrong all the time.
Same here. Same here. Well, it certainly feels like now you can't have shadows in film anymore.
Yeah, I mean the big argument was that's another thing. Shadows are kind of going away.
No, you can't have them because TVs now they market themselves on you can see every grain of detail, no matter how dark it is, and that is a problem now because that used to be a very vital, important cinematography technique in that you can have shadows take out certain elements of the screen.
Well, compose a shot.
It's only a problem if you're holding back and trying to make something that is like a mimic of something else, like a mime of some kind of, it's trying to pretending to be something that it's not.
Right.
I mean, look, as long as we're shooting on video, on digital video, or digital cinema, as long as we're doing that, push it, man. Go to the max.
Right.
Go 60 frames a second. Use the HDR. Leave film behind if that's the case, and let it go and become what it's supposed to be.
But now you're just crudely trying to mimic what film already gave you.
Yeah, and I don't see the point in that.
Right.
Actually, to me, that's just like fakery.
It's disingenuous.
It's disingenuous. And then for people to say it's the same, it's fucking not the same. It's not the same. Stop saying that it's the same.
Yeah.
Like most people might
That's
not be able to tell. That's the real issue because look, I've shot movies on like the Glitterati movie, shot on video. Lucky Day, shot on video. I love like parts of that process. It's really, really super handy. But ultimately, this was like a poison apple invented by the studios to kill the movie theaters. If we think about it, what are movie theaters? Movie theaters used to be the Nickelodeons, and they used to be owned by the studios. And then there was a thing called antitrust that we used to have in this country. And because of the antitrust laws that occurred, movie theaters were not allowed to be owned by studios because it was like
Conflict of interest, right?
Yeah, it's like a conflict of interest, and it creates a monopoly situation. And so the relationship between movie theaters and the film studios is one born of divorce. It's not one born of love.
Right.
And the movie studios for a very long time, or I should say the executives at the movie studios for a very, very long time have looked with a little bit of disdain at the theaters. They don't really want to put them there. And everybody's been racing ever since the 90s to digital, into home video. Like that's where you make your money. You make your money on home video, and now you make your money on streaming. And that's another problem because now we've taken away the hit-driven model. There's no hit-driven model. There's only a program. You make the movie for this much and we'll buy it, and then we throw it in the stream, and your movie goes down the stream.
And if it is in theaters, it's going to be there for 17 days, and then we're going to move it right to streaming.
You're lucky. If you're an independent filmmaker, you're lucky to get your movie into a theater for 17 days. You're probably lucky to get it in there for a week or in there at all. And if they're doing it, they're only doing it because the
obligations of
like, well, in the case of my films, when they came out, we had to have a theatrical release on our films. And because if you don't have a theatrical release, you're not allowed to Walmart won't take your movie and sell it. And Walmart was where all the money was made. Like Walmart literally drove the film industry for a while. And they were like largely responsible for the business model.
Those $5 bins, that was everything.
Yeah.
Still is for me.
I mean, still, most physical media sales are still DVDs. And often cases, people are buying them from Walmart. They're buying them from gas stations.
I think Best
Dollar
Buy
General.
just got rid of their
did.
DVD
They did.
section, which was horrendous because there's
Criminal.
so many like $1 or $5 DVDs that you picked up that are just like, I mean, like we had like the Super Mario.
We just
Brothers
watched
movie.
Galaxy
We just
Quest.
watched Galaxy Quest, but that was from the Amoeba like $9 section.
right.
back
Yeah,
then.
they're a little more expensive because they're
Little bit-
amoeba.
Yeah, but that was bought back like when, like in the 2000s. So
Yeah, that was actually it was sometime after the
Inflation.
movie had been released. So
yeah.
So I just look. I think it's oils and watercolors, and let them be oils and watercolors. And I'm not saying one is better than the other. Like I said, in fact, I look at it because I come out of home video myself. I worked in a video store with Quentin, and video was my thing. But I remember very clearly when porn switched over from because look, porn drives technology.
It really does.
Absolutely does.
Like porn was printed on the Gutenberg press before the Bible. Like, and that's a fact. Porn is what drove the DVD industry. If it wasn't for porn, DVDs never would have taken off. Same with VHS.
That's the medium wars.
In fact,
It was beta.
in fact, it was beta, originally, and beta was is the better format than VHS. But Sony wouldn't allow porn to be put on. They had control over what could be put on there.
later losers.
And sold. And JVC came along and just said, "We'll make a competing format, and we'll allow anybody to do whatever they want with it." And
can I have a copy? That's what they said.
and that tends to win at the end of the day. And so,
Yeah.
So, what is your preference now for watching at home? I know Gala's very much against 4K.
Well,
she doesn't have a television.
I don't
for
own
one.
a television. I own like a CRT combo. I own 2 CRT combos.
those are technically televisions.
Yeah, they're technically televisions.
You're watching. I have a monitor at my house.
Yes, I go to his house to go watch all my trash TV, so I still consume it. But when we watch at home, Dad, we're watching. I mean, we'll watch just like DVDs, Blu-rays. We just have like a player on a TV.
Yeah, I went through a kick. I'm still kind of on it where I won't buy anything unless it's made in the USA. Okay. And it was more of like a thought experiment that it's like, okay, because
As in like boutique physical media. Like, are you talking
No,
like
he means
Arrow?
anything.
no, I mean anything.
Oh, anything. All right. Gotcha.
Like shoes.
Try to buy shoes. Actually, here in Texas, you can, because there is maybe the last company in the United States.
Is it Hey Dude?
No, it's SAS shoes, San Antonio shoes.
Right. Okay. Yeah. I've heard of them. Actually.
They still have a factory. They still make shoes. They make shoes that are made in the United States. The shoes I'm wearing now were made by a company that just went out of business called Pseudo, and
the Avery ones.
called a company called Pseudo. And so I basically said, I'm going to see how I can do this. And what I discovered was you almost can't buy anything anymore. You can't buy a car unless you're buying a used car or, some kind of, special
Thought experiment.
kit car company or something like that. And there are a few of them out there. There's one phone you can buy that is basically made in America, made in the USA, although the case is still made in China.
Wait, when you were trying to find the TV.
Garden hose. You can get garden hose, no problem. They're making garden hose like crazy in the United States.
Number one export.
Yeah, it's kind of shocking. It's kind of shocking. But I'm looking at the world now, and I'm thinking, in this day and age where everything is more and more inauthentic, authenticity is becoming more and more important to people.
Right.
And so
more valuable for sure.
It becomes more valuable. And so, like, if I'm going to buy a tortilla press, for example. So do you know where they were invented and where they're actually still made?
No, and I take offense to the question. No,
they're made in Colombia. They were invented and made in Colombia. And if I want to get a tortilla press, I'm going to go to Colombia to get mine, or I'm going to get one from Colombia because I want a Colombian tortilla press. I want the original, the real deal.
Right.
I don't want something, made with depleted uranium steel in China, to make my tortillas on. I want my depleted uranium steel from Colombia.
You want that 100% pure Colombian,
straight from the soil.
Yeah. Well, it's more that if I'm going to be collecting things in my life, I would rather have a good tool as opposed to a shitty tool from Harbor Freight, for example. Nothing against Harbor Freight.
But for example,
but for example,
they're shit.
They're a sponsor of the show, actually, so I'm going to edit that up.
It was Bill Clinton who disconnected human rights from trade. And it used to be that human rights and trade were, this was actually what drove my whole thing, was that, and I think this was around, it was when he was in office, but he basically disconnected human rights from trade. And in that moment, it all collapsed. Westinghouse, which made at that time batteries and motors, immediately, outsourced to China. Like overnight, it was gone. That industry vanished, and Westinghouse became a company called Viacom Corporation, which is just an intelligence operation. And so, it's like.
But where'd you get your TV from, Dad?
Okay, so I had to buy.
Anyways, it's a life skill.
So I had to buy a TV. And I'm looking around like a modern monitor, and I'm looking around, and
screen.
you almost can't find it, except there was a company in South Carolina called Element making just bargain basement, monitors, like just cheap as can be. And I think they were making them for the hotel market, and that they would do they had some kind of deal out to hotels. And so I ended up buying one of their TVs. Actually, I bought two of them. They're fantastic, actually.
I can't buy one because
they went out of business.
They went out of business.
They stopped making televisions.
It was so upsetting.
Do you still have to pay for your porn on those?
Yeah, what the
Since
hell?
they're like television?
No comment. I forgot to tell my porn story. So anyhow, so I'm working at the video store, and there's this transition happening in the moment between porn shot on film and porn shot on video. And I hadn't paid much attention to it, but I remember this one guy came in, this kind of cool black dude, and he came coming in, he's like, yo, brother, you got any of that porn shot on video? And I'm like, shot on, yeah, I think so. And he's like, yeah, because it's like shiny, it's like glossy, it has a different feel. And it's true. He was absolutely right. He was like, before anyone I knew, that guy had identified that in some ways and in some projects, in some movies, and specifically in porn films, video was the thing.
Right.
And it wasn't because it was easier to shoot. It was because of the aesthetic of it. He liked the aesthetic of it. Okay, that's legit.
That checks out.
I think that's 100% a legit perspective to have, and it kind of makes sense why that would happen in the porn industry. But what happened in the porn industry soon it was just a matter of time, just like everything else with the technologies that porn drives.
Activated that dude's beta waves hard.
So
It's true.
Do you feel a sort of a resurgence in physical media, though? Because I know,
I see
like
a
you said,
resurgence in younger generations, at least, of a desire to have authenticity in their lives.
I agree.
And I think this is just a an instinctive cultural thing that's happening to people. We aren't naturally put on this planet for inauthentic experiences.
Right.
We're here for authenticity. We're here for reality. We're here to have a tactile experience with reality. And there's another movement, which is the opposite of that, which is an attempt to remove us more and more from reality.
Yeah.
And from the ecstatic tactile qualities of reality.
Totally.
I think in a big way, just by doing the video archives, I think you're already giving physical media a sense of, just like vinyl collecting records. I think people that are
It's the same.
It's listening to that and saying like, oh, I need to own my favorite movie, whatever it is, 2-minute warning on VHS because of listening to you guys gush about it. I think that's a big part of it.
I think also it's just like people my age were told you will own nothing and you will like it. And actually I will own everything and I will like it.
Yeah, I remember when this happened because it was around the time I was doing Rules of Attraction. Suddenly this minimalist movement occurred. And I think it was driven by corporations. I strongly believe that, in fact, that suddenly everyone was like throwing away their books, throwing away their physical media, just dumping it all. Guilty. I want to have nothing in my, I want I don't want to live in a cube house, a house that's just a box with no detail. And I don't want any filigree on the windows or anything. I just want just a window. Like everything must be simple.
But doesn't it feel great though to be surrounded by your stuff and like know what you like?
Yeah,
and
boy, does it.
More than that, there used to be a utility to it. When you would go to somebody's house, you would be able to look at their books and understand who they were,
judge them.
Right.
Well, no, you would get a composite of them. You would have a feeling. I mean, maybe judgment, but sometimes actually
a good judgment.
Fitzgerald's Great Gatsby has an entire theme basically based on his library. That his books, and he has because he's the Great Gatsby, he has a massive collection of books. It's super impressive. It's like, wow, you've got everything. But if you take out one of those books and you open it up, you see the pages haven't been cut. In the old days, you had to cut the pages because the way books were printed, you actually had. That's why
that's so cool.
The binding.
That's why that's why the outer edge is often raggedy on old books. It's because you actually had to physically yourself.
Oh wow!
Cut them.
They've brought that back. It's trending now again.
See, it's trending now
to have the raggedy pages.
Yep.
And that used to just be a thing. And what it basically meant was the Great Gatsby has the largest library because he can afford it, but he hasn't read a single book.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And so it tells you about who he is as a person. Well, if you don't have anything, then you have, there's also another perspective to this, which is, which I heard recently, with apologies, it was Jordan Peterson who said it, but he basically said, no one cares.
I was waiting for it. Yeah.
Once you turn 60, no one cares about you. I'm almost doing David Lynch.
He sounded like David Lynch, like the spirit of
Well,
David
he might
Lynch.
say the same thing. Once you turn 60, no one cares about your shit anymore. They just don't care. And all the stuff you have just represents unfinished stories in your life.
I agree with that partially, but I also disagree because these estate sales that have been happening in Los Angeles, anytime anyone passes away, there's just been these... I have some friends that have been lining up like a day before to get in there.
And camping out like Black Friday.
Like, it's literally they camp out for the estate sales. And so I think, maybe
like we're grieving.
It feels like that though. It's like you're going through someone's entire life and their house. And so I think people do care about your stuff, but only if they can have it.
For the sake of conveying their own individuality.
exactly.
But the thing is,
exactly.
I mean, part of that is people won't know what was important. Like my dad, and I mentioned tools earlier, and I mentioned that for a reason. My dad loves Harbor Freight. Like I'm about to go visit my dad. He's 90. And like one of the things he will want to do is let's go to Harbor Freight. Not even to buy anything. He just likes to look around at all the stuff. He just likes all the stuff.
He just loves stuff.
Yeah.
And his
Don't we
house is
all?
just filled with shit. It's just to the rafters with shit.
My house is full of shit!
The problem is that like we have these tools that have been in our family since the early 1800s. Like an old wrench and an old hammer and an old, like these old tools.
Like a lathe.
But they're underneath a pile of Harbor Freight tools. And if I didn't know like about those tools, I'd just take it all and just sell it at the estate auction. Just dump it all. Like and part of the problem of that is that we're losing our authenticity with inauthenticity shit being placed on top of it.
True.
So, your stuff is
It's a reflection of you.
It's a reflection, and it's a little piece of who you are, and it shows who you are. But
But I think
there's a problem with being covered. Is that what we've become? I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right in that minimalism was such a huge proponent a few years ago. In that, like, get rid of all your. It felt like, okay, let's do this now. Let's encourage this now because they're gonna buy all this shit all over again.
Yeah,
that's what happens with. I mean, even physical media now. It's like 4Ks.
Kindle. Did you hear what Kindle just did?
that pissed me off so fucking hard.
What did they do?
So Kindle basically just said for any non-Kindle device, you can no longer download your books that you have bought.
Right. So they took away your ability to upload your purchased Kindle books to your computer in order to strip the DRM from those books and put them onto a different device, a different e-reading device that is not a Kindle.
It's so like basically like trying to put it on a different bookshelf.
Essentially, yeah. But it comes back to the thing where, like, yeah, you're not buying the book. You're buying a license to read the book on that particular device.
On that device.
Yeah, and so there's a big thing from all the readers out there that are kind of saying, you know what, they should just be telling us basically we're just renting a license because you're not really buying a book. And that
long-term lease.
It's a long-term lease, but it's just like how they talked about iTunes libraries.
Yes.
Like, I want to leave my iTunes library to my kids. Well, sorry, you actually don't really own those. So you don't get to leave that in your will. We just kind of like take it back.
Sorry, we're taking back this HD version of Pootie Tang.
One of the problems with wanting to buy made in USA stuff is, like, my son, for example, he wanted a freestanding sink thing for this pottery thing he was doing. And so I started, like, looking into, buying one of those. Okay, what I discovered was if I wanted something with Pennsylvania steel, it was like 6 times more expensive than one just flown in from China, on the dirt cheap. Well, what happened when Bill Clinton separated human rights from trade is all of our stuff got, all of our manufacturing went overseas to China. And now everything's like all of your iPhones are made by Uyghur slave labor. So we just offshored our slave labor.
Yeah.
And
it's fine if it's not happening here.
Well, and
out of sight, out of mind.
One of the things that made, like, Hollywood kind of was adjacent to the aerospace industry, in California. And because of that, we had the best tooling in the world was done in California. At least I thought the best tooling of the world, the precision tooling to do things like,
what is tooling to,
making something like, to make this, you need to have certain tools to lathe and
like actually
bend steel and, to create something. And so, to actually make something. And so when you're making a camera, you're making a whole bunch of little tiny parts that all come together mechanically. And, with cameras, with a Mitchell movement, for example, it's so precise. Like Mitchell cameras are still used, or used to be used at least. They were the ones that were used up until the very end for visual effects because the registration was so solid. Well, part of that was because the Mitchell movements, which Panavision basically aped and just took the Mitchell movements, they were able to do that because of the excellent aerospace level tooling that was being done in California at that time. Okay, no tooling is done anymore. Like almost anywhere in the United States, it's still done, but it's done at a level that is almost unsustainable for the businesses that are doing it. And
it's a boutique, and it'll cost
part of this
$1 million.
And part of this is just because we fell into a period, a Costco period, we can call it, where everybody just wants cheap shit.
Yeah.
Well, I want cheap shit also. Like, I don't want everything to be expensive, but I'm also looking for something of, I when I buy a tool or a knife or a pair of sunglasses or, eyeglasses, like, fortunately, I'm trying to, Randolph Engineering makes sunglasses in the United States still. And
sponsor the pod.
Yeah, there's a couple of people still making sunglasses. And basically, in this kind of experiment that I started to do, I just discovered that we gave it all away. It's gone. It's gone. It's absolutely gone.
It's kind of like almost cliche to complain about capitalism, but like when it's unregulated, it goes to those extremes where it's like, well, we can make it as cheap as possible there and then ship it, and then now it just goes to the extreme immediately if it's unregulated. So it's like,
I mean, who I am now is I no longer shit talk Italy because of the fall of Rome, and where and like, oh, you once mighty, world dominating country. Who are you now? Like, your fiats don't even run, and
good
blah blah
film
blah.
prints, but-
Well, basically, we're there now,
Yeah.
and that's sad. I mean, that's sad. And like, I talked to a guy last night. I like everybody am experimenting with AI and AI filmmaking, and I'm working with this company Runway. And this guy last night at the screening, he basically was like, Runway's crap, Runway's garbage, blah blah blah, China, and he basically talked about some new Chinese company that's doing rather astonishing work and everything, but. I heard that and I was like, well, there it goes. There it goes again. Any kind of like innovation that is being done, if you let it go, it's gone.
Right.
And
but I feel like the younger generation is desperate to have it back. I feel like it's like we've gotten to that point where we see like, okay, well, if we are not allowed to have anything, we want it now.
Right.
And like we do want the physical media. We do want things of quality. It's like that's the biggest thing. It's like I don't want something that's just gonna like unravel like a shirt. I don't want it to just unravel after 3 washes.
Mm-hmm. You have more generations now that are just like not willing to comply. And
well,
you
Gen
can always
Alpha, Gen Alpha, man. Oh my god.
Gen Alpha, really?
Gen Alpha, they will not comply.
Yeah.
not comply with what? They won't.
They will
literally anything.
Literally anything.
Yeah.
They will just do whatever they are going to do. It's
Yeah.
like I can see the youth. It is.
Yeah, where were the parents at? Yeah, that's where it's at.
Yeah, it's the same exact thing that's happening back then is happening now. It's like, where are the parents? They gotta. But it's kids also being raised on that 128 frames per second, being beamed directly into their brain.
Well, we are being programmed. I mean, movies are
it's propaganda.
And it used to be that, during peak cinema, there was this kind of relationship between the show and the business, the artist and the corporation, where the artist would bring their propaganda and the corporation would bring their propaganda. And ideally, there was enough of both.
Right.
And out of that, we have classic Hollywood movies that we all love. Like you look at, I don't know, Beverly Hills Cop, for example. Okay,
love that movie.
That I think is a great example of a movie that is kind of finding a perfect meeting of corporation and, a filmmaker squeezing in his message.
Right.
This is ideally what works. Well, that has almost become like boutique, and there's a very small sliver of filmmakers now that are almost like a very small, compared to what it used to be, amount of filmmakers who are now considered auteurs, artists, and they're put on a play. Like Eggers, I think, is and the guy who made The Brutalist. What's his name?
Brady Corbin.
Brady Corbin. Like guys like that are they're becoming kind of a brand that can be pushed to kind of push.
I think Sean Baker's a big part of that too.
I think Sean is absolutely my favorite filmmaker. Ever since I saw Starlet, yeah. Ever since I saw Starlet I was at the Locarno Festival, and he was there with Starlet, his movie about the porn industry. And I'm watching all these kind of oblique European films, and then suddenly Starlet comes on. It's an oblique American movie, and it's an LA film, and it's in the porn industry. And so I'm like, I'm in, and I was like, who is this guy? And it was shot on film, and he had his DP there. And these guys, like, they're pure. They have a
100%.
they have a purity to them, to themselves. And it's. But you listen to Sean and what he just said at the SAG Awards,
amazing,
and I was so glad he said it, because he's right. I mean, look, I wanted to raise a family in my life. And had I become what he called an indie lifer, and I'm still kind of an indie lifer, but I don't make enough movies. I don't make enough movies because literally there are too many movies. And
Sean's a great example, though, of someone that can take any format that he's shooting on and just use it for, like, Tangerine, shot on an iPhone.
Yeah, exactly. And what Sean did was he's like, well, what can an iPhone do that a film camera can't do? So he basically said, like, I'm going to take this low format and shoot it in a big way. And Soderbergh will do the same thing.
Yeah.
And
Soderbergh is such an economist of film. The way that he's able to constantly produce.
Do you have a favorite Soderbergh?
Oh, goodness. I mean, Ocean's 11? I feel like that's kind of like the easy answer, but
Behind the Candelabra. Have you seen that
No.
one? It's my favorite.
Bruce Ramsey.
Yeah, Bruce Ramsey's in it. It's Liberace's life story.
oh really?
Yeah, with Michael Douglas playing
Michael-
Liberace.
Yeah.
Is it really that
And-
good?
Yeah.
Now I know what you're
it's
talking
so
about.
good. It's so good.
Yeah,
I thought that was a series. No.
No, it's a movie.
Oh,
It's a
his,
movie.
His series, The Nick, was amazing. That
Oh,
was one
yeah,
of
that's
my favorite
crazy.
things. That and Contagion.
It's
Contagion.
It's funny. I'm
Banana.
yeah. It's funny. I've always kind of I don't want to say I've poo-pooed him, but I respect him more than I really enjoy most of his movies. But I thought about it the other day, and I was like, man, when that guy's gone, I'll be sad. We'll all be sad. It's like the Coen brothers. Oh, I like this one. I hate that one. His body of work is so fantastic and so impressive.
Totally.
And and
just the rate of it too.
well, Michel Gondry said it kind of correctly. He basically said quantity will always beat quality.
Dang.
And
wow.
and that was a lesson I learned probably a little too late. But the truth of and I still probably haven't learned it. But the fact of the matter is, quantity will always beat quality.
I mean, look at Ridley Scott. I mean,
Good God, yeah.
Just look at him.
Look at him.
I mean,
I actually have to say, he's one of the most eloquent speakers on an audio commentary. I love listening to him talk about, especially his audio commentary for Legend. And I think Legend is just, I mean, he had a run there, he's had a long run,
of course,
of such amazing work. Like he's obviously one of the world's greatest artists and greatest film artists, and I'm not wild about his latest works.
No, yeah.
He's sometimes it's also like he'll make a movie just to make a movie, and that's okay.
right?
Like I've done that. My La Voix Humaine project was making a movie just to make a movie. There was it was just making it.
But you were like you said before, you were trying to get back into the saddle, right? You were trying to.
Well, I hadn't made a movie in a long time. I had spent some time in jail. I was incarcerated for a while, and when that happens, you get dropped like a hot rock in Hollywood, and so I basically found that no one would touch me except for the French.
Yeah.
And that's kind of classic about the French. It's one of the reasons we can love the French is that when this country turned their back on Charlie Chaplin, they basically kicked him out of the country. They were just like, they were done with him. Once they were done with him, they were done with him. They didn't care that this was the guy who made City Lights. They didn't care that this was the guy, who made The Kid.
Gold Rush.
Gold Rush. Like they didn't care about any of that. And he basically lived out his life in exile in France and Switzerland. And, he's one of the greatest artists who ever lived. And so, our business doesn't care about the past. It's actually kind of amazing that Kubrick had an ally in John Calley that they didn't care what he made. And it was a very special situation.
That's not happy.
She'll whap you.
Done.
She
I'm
throwing
done.
hands?
Are you done?
Just don't go down her back. She likes head
I
pets.
just didn't even have it in there.
Just hands. Just caught some hands. I'm sorry about that.
I don't care. I love anytime a cat goes at you, it's your fault. It's not,
They're good at
never-
setting boundaries.
It's never her fault.
Cats are always in the right.
Cats are
Yes.
always in the right.
Yeah,
We're
she's feisty.
We're 100% cat people.
Yeah. Okay, good. Well, she likes to swing, but she'll settle down.
To go back to Ridley Scott very quickly.
Sure.
Did you watch Napoleon?
Oh, I did.
I have not seen Napoleon, and actually wanted to see Napoleon mostly because I had followed Kubrick's Napoleon so closely.
That was exactly my question. I felt sort of gross watching Napoleon.
Oh, I felt really gross watching it, and I was dragged by a friend of mine who he's not a movie guy, but he loves history, and so he's like, we have to go see Napoleon. And so we went to go see Napoleon, and I'm like sitting there like, oh my God, what am I doing here? Like, what is this? Like,
Was he complaining the whole time about the history? It's
a little bit after the fact, but like my biggest thing was like, how did they know that Napoleon talked in that voice, like little baby voice under the table when he's like in his sexual rendezvous? I was like, how do they know that? Like that's
You got to take some liberties in film, I guess.
It's like why would that be the liberty that you take?
It's a creative choice.
And I don't know if he necessarily said that he was trying to remake what Stanley Kubrick was trying to do for Napoleon. Like, I don't know if that was but that must have been in his mind a bit, obviously.
He had
right?
to at least have a passing awareness, even if he's doing his own thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just think that was in the works at all kind of diminishes any other Napoleon movie
I think
to
it's
follow.
I think I haven't seen his Napoleon, so I can't judge it. But I absolutely think I'm excited to see it. I want to see it. I just missed it in the moment because I was working.
But there's also so many movies that like it's weird that you miss from these big directors, and like you should see them. Like for example, and this, I mean, he reminded me that the Paul Verhoeven accepted a Razzie for Showgirls.
He was the first person to actually.
I cannot believe.
Paul was the first guy to actually show up to the Razzies, and he terrified them. Actually, the fact that he came, they couldn't. They couldn't believe.
Talk shit, find out, man.
Yeah, he came to the award show. And not only did he come, but he embraced it, and he was proud of it. And Paul's like that. Paul's, I know Paul pretty well.
That's how you do it. Just lean in.
No, but like,
he leaned into it.
Like Megalopolis.
Yeah.
And I didn't get to see it in theaters. And the one person, I know you guys, I know. My grandpa, he'll just go see whatever movie's playing. And he told me he actually walked out of Megalopolis. So yeah.
So did he.
Yeah. But the fact that like one of our greatest filmmakers is at the point in his life where they won't touch him. He has to sell his vineyard to like make his giant crazy movie.
Yeah.
And then he's getting nominated for Razzies.
Yeah,
And
this
it's
guy
like-
made The Godfather.
And he's accepting
I know.
them.
And he's accepting that.
He's breaking embargo to accept them.
What's weird is I think that by paying for the movie himself, he automatically excludes himself from the Razzies. That's my opinion. And I haven't.
It should be a studio
and it's
film?
another I haven't seen. I feel like it should be a like.
Well, Lionsgate has it, right?
He made his
I have no
artistic.
idea.
He made his artistic vision. Well, Lionsgate they handled the distribution, but I'm sure that was a kind of four-walling arrangement of some kind.
Sure.
Right.
You know, I'm sure they were. You know,
But we're in a crazy time that Coppola is like getting the Razzie for a movie that he had to fund himself because no one else would do his vision, and maybe rightfully so.
Right.
Maybe,
He's like, now I see why.
Yeah, maybe he needed a studio for it, but just like that's the state of the industry. Kind of is just like
It's like, yeah, let's shun and let's shame this thing that's
our
fully
our old guards,
a
like
passion
these
project.
guys, also that were like the guys that like
Well-
we grew up watching their movies, and they've inspired all the directors that are up and coming now.
look, look. He spent his own money of his own free will.
Yeah,
And
he made what he wanted to make.
And the fact of the matter is, I look at a lot of these Titan filmmakers like him. Look, he has made low budget movies in the past. He knows how to do it, and he can do it. And it's not like he needs a payday or anything. It's not like he has to pay himself. He could have made a movie for $5 million. He could have made a movie for, $10 million. He could have made a movie for $25 million. He didn't have to like make $100 million movie, about architecture or building a city or whatever that movie's about.
It was Megalopolis, obviously, but it was his version of Metropolis, was it not?
Basically, I don't know. It's like
I don't know. man.
Entitlement.
I'm not even gonna bother trying to explain it. I didn't, and I shouldn't because I didn't even see it. I
But-
walked out 45 minutes in. So
But like, a movie doesn't, and also you might be able to watch that movie in the future and separated from the time that it's
Sure,
released
yeah.
and the opinions of everybody and everything. Like,
Yeah.
when I first saw Blade Runner, Ridley Scott's Blade Runner, I hated it. I think did I already tell you?
Yeah,
guys?
yeah.
I
I
did.
did, but please go ahead.
Yeah, but tell it again.
I hated Blade Runner when I first saw it. I saw it on its opening release on opening day. I watched it. Obviously, I was impressed by the production design and the look of the movie and the effects, and I love all of that. But for me, it was a failure as a detective story. It fell into this kind of him leaning on a piano and just clinking the keys again and again, and I just didn't connect with it. Okay, it took me a little while. It took me a couple of years, but then I started watching it again and again and again, and obviously, I think it's one of the most extraordinary films. It also was the original theatrical cut that I had seen, and maybe that had something to do with it. But, also when Blade Runner came out, it was, I can't remember what the year was right now, but, it's surrounded by, minimum a dozen other excellent movies that, if we had one of those this year, we would be claiming this is
We talked about it yesterday. The Thing opened the same day as Blade Runner.
was that what
Yeah,
it was?
the same
Yeah.
weekend,
See,
think, yeah.
I might have been a thing guy, and I used to go see movies. I can't remember. I think I saw The Thing. Because I saw The Thing on opening day too. So how could that be?
Well, you could see both.
Maybe it was like really close. But
It could have been on a Thursday or a Friday and a Saturday, but Quentin and I used to go see 3 movies every Friday. And so whatever 3 movies, or sometimes 4, we would just hit them up and just knock them all down.
I mean, we talked a little bit about this because I saw Michael Crichton's Looker recently, and I messaged my dad. I was like, Dad, like this has to be the biggest movie of all time, like in that year. And it really wasn't. It's kind of this like forgotten movie that just because there was so much good science fiction that it just kind of fell through the cracks. And I was thinking about it, like The Substance, for example, which I did not love The Substance as much as everyone else seems to just like love The Substance. But
you
like,
pick on it because it's not a true Los Angeles movie.
Yeah, and there's other reasons too. I now think, and I'm working on a film essay about it. I now think it's actually just a ripoff of The Nutty Professor. Eddie Murphy. Eddie Murphy's The Nutty Professor, though. Specifically,
You're not wrong.
Listen,
actually.
it's not a Jekyll and Hyde story. The Nutty Professor and The Substance both have jazzercise sequences in it. Jekyll and Hyde doesn't have a jazzercise sequence. And so like I'll get into that more.
Corley Fargy's a hack. We all know.
Yeah. Just watch The Nutty Professor. But when I see a movie like The Substance, I think people are so starved for just that kind of movie and just like that kind of science fiction and that kind of just like oddity,
or what they think they remember it being.
Right.
And it's just like if that had come out back like when Looker was coming out, it would have just been surrounded by all of these different kinds of movies. And it just makes me think like we don't have the same output. Even though there's so much being released to streaming, it just gets lost.
Well, but the stuff that's getting released to streaming, I mean, the way the model works now is, and the model may be changing constantly, but generally that you can sell your movie directly to a streamer like Netflix or whatever for about $10 million. And so then what producers do is they're like, okay, we know what our movie is going to sell for, and now we got to make the movie. And so the presumption is that you're actually making a $10 million movie. Well, what they'll do is they'll go to, Atlanta or Louisiana or Canada usually, or God forbid, they're going to like Budapest or someplace like that, just to basically shoot it like on the cheap and using subsidy money. And so, they'll be able to take off 35% or 40% of the budget, just getting subsidy money back from local government or state government or country government. And then what they'll do is, okay, so now you've got like $6 million of hard cash that you need to get. Okay, well, we know that we're going to have to pay Alec Baldwin $5, and I'm just making up that number, but let's say $5, and that means the budget for our film, the actual shooting budget will be $1. And that's what happened on probably a movie like Rust, where they're paying an actor to be there. This is his passion project, but we still got to pay him. We got to pay him his freight. And we're getting some money from subsidies, and then that means that the production is just anemic, anemic, and it's an industry of safety, and you can't be anemic when you're working with guns. You have to use safety, and you have to follow protocols, and you have to take time to do it. And they're rushing. And there was crew that left, apparently the day before, and it's all because there wasn't enough money to actually physically. I mean, there technically was enough money to do it, but not to do it properly because there was an imbalance. And then at the end of the day, it's not a hit-driven film. It's not like, somebody's using their gut. Like, I believe in this. I believe in this movie. No, they're just using a program. Oh, you got Alec Baldwin. He's worth this much and blah, blah, blah. And our audience will like, we've run the analytics and Alec Baldwin.
They call these movies now geezer teasers, where you have someone like the Bruce Willis movies have it. For a while, Nick Cage was a name that they were using for this. Right. He's kind of broken out of the geezer teaser.
I think Nick Cage is easily broken out of
no, he's broken out of the geezer teaser. But there was a brief period in his career, but basically what they do is they'll pay them like the $5 million.
Geezer feature now.
But they're only there for 2 days shooting, and so they use them to sell the movie, but they're really not in it that much. Yeah. But it is like this new kind of, we almost like are like, oh, it's almost like one of those like straight to video. Well, like in the video store days.
Bruce Willis was before he was diagnosed,
and
he was going hard
yeah.
with the geezer teasers.
I think his name is Stephen C. Miller, and I talked with him about this because he did several of Bruce's movies, and it was leading up to right before his diagnosis was public, and he remembered like he was coherent, and then the next one he was like a little less, and by the third one he could not remember who he was, and he said, you know what, I actually won't direct him. It's not ethical at this point to keep him going. And so that guy's a stand-up guy, and he was the one that actually told me about the term geezer teaser, which I love. I think it's an awesome term.
It's a new term. Finally, we have one. We haven't had one in a long while. Well, I think like what you were saying with the substance, to kind of go backwards just a tiny bit, is that one, it's the first body horror to be nominated for Best Picture that I can think of, but it's not groundbreaking in the fact that it is a body horror.
But if you've
there's
never
nothing about
seen,
it that is groundbreaking.
If you've never seen a 35 millimeter film print shown, your mind's going to be blown when you finally see a 35 millimeter print shown. It doesn't matter what it is. And if you've never seen a body horror before and you go see The Substance, you're going to be like, oh my God, my mind is blown because I've never seen anything like this before.
Right.
But like,
if you've never seen a Cronenberg movie,
just go watch a Cronenberg movie. And like, you're like, when I go in there, I'm sitting and I'm watching it. And I'm like, okay, like I see where it's coming from and I get it. And like my friends who maybe have never seen something, they're like, oh my God, that was the craziest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah.
It was amazing, all this stuff. And it's perspective of like where you're coming from and where your entry level is. Even if I don't like a movie, like I appreciate when someone just is like so down for it and they love it. Like when people are like, I think The Substance is the best movie, I think it should win this year. Great. I'm glad you liked it.
Right.
And I'm hoping that when you see The Substance, you go down that path of like what inspired her to make it.
100%.
Because those are the movies that I love and I want people to be watching and enjoying. So whenever anyone likes a movie, I'm never like, boo. There's maybe one or two that I'm like, boo. But I'm more just like, I'm so happy that people love movies. I'm so happy that people want to go buy it on physical media. Like the Terrifier movies. Okay. I don't know how you guys feel about Terrifier 3. I hate it.
That's the one I have not seen.
I actually I didn't see 1 or 2. I was kind of sat down at someone's house to like watch it.
But the people who love those kind of movies love that movie.
They love that movie, and they want to. And the VHS came out in Walmart. I think the VHS was in Walmart, and like they want everything about it, and they love it.
That's a proper release.
Yeah, and that's a proper release. But it's like those kinds of movies. Even when I actually legitimately think it's the worst movie of last year, I'm really glad that people still want to go see it. They still want to go to bat for it. They want to buy all the merch. It makes me proud of like movies in general.
And also that budget was super minimal. And the fact that it got a full-on theatrical release.
And they even brought it back for Christmas.
Yeah.
They did AMC did like a
Is that a Blumhouse movie?
No, it's the director when he made Terrifier, when I can't remember his name.
Damien Leone.
Leone. Something if you
one of
want to
those.
give it an Italian flair.
Whichever one you pick, it's going to be wrong.
Yeah, I know exactly. So I'll just say them both. He basically made it with his like own money, his own idea, and he went full indie on the first one, and then it was like a cult classic hit. And so he had just enough money to kind of bump it up with the second one, kind of like an Evil Dead 2 situation, but it's like a continuation of the story. And then the third one, I think it had such a big cult following that he had way more money, way more budget, and they just went all out on the kills.
But
so
still minimal.
But still, it's still, when I say, they went all out on the budget, it's not like $100 million movie.
It's not his megalopolis.
It's not his, but he's still making it from his standpoint of like, this is a movie I want to make, and if you want to come with me and do it, like, let's go.
Yeah.
You have to encourage that. I mean,
I appreciate it.
Yeah, of course.
I still think it's my least favorite movie of the year.
I thought it was a few good kills wrapped in like a lot of talking and pretty.
Yeah, I just wish I hadn't seen it.
But
everything
they're
but the
fun.
kills is excruciating.
Yeah. But that's there. It's a fun slasher. And like you said, like The Substance, where it's like, I'm just happy some body horror is at the Academy Awards. You know, that's fucking cool.
There's also something to be said about the excruciating being an important part of that. Like, and by excruciating, I think you mean like hokey a little bit, or not playing well. Because what that does is it gives you almost like a release valve from the pressure of
like
of the intensity of the scenes.
I would say not in Terrifier 3, but
but I get your point. There's some contrast.
Well, I think
there's a little bit, and it allows you to kind of break from the reality of the movie a little bit, and to say, I'm in a hokey movie.
Sure. But
a little bit. I kind of like that a little bit.
Well, those are important also because I know some people that are advocating for like cell phone zones in theaters. Like, I should be able to be on my cell phone. And I'm like, no, you shouldn't.
No.
And
cell phone zones to be in theaters?
Yes, like while you're in the theater,
row.
so the back row, you can be checking your cell phone.
That's like a screaming zone in a library.
Yeah. No. Well, they used to have some theaters, and the Gardena Cinema down in LA, the Gardena Cinema actually has what they call like the nursing room, and it's a balcony above the theater where moms and children could go. So if a child was screaming, that the theater couldn't hear. Okay. And so like that upper balcony, it's a soundproof room. And I think it's but they're advocating for it because I heard someone say, I want to be on my phone during the boring part. And I said, the boring part of it, like, who are you people?
They're anticipating a boring part, which is a problem.
Don't go to that movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they mean the talking part.
I'll bet part of that is that they're watching a video projection.
Yeah, that they can't stay focused.
And it's like, it just feels like you're at home. And so why shouldn't you do what you do at home? And there's less respect for other people more and more in public space. And
that's
so
definitely true about that.
I mean, at least for me, going to a movie, regardless of if it's on film or if it's a DCP digital, I'm going because I need to be off of my phone. That's the reason I'm going.
There should be no cell phones.
I need to be dialed in on this movie, especially as a movie like Seed of the Sacred Fig. I would have been on my phone within like 10 minutes, probably, if I were at home watching it. But because I was dialed into a screen where like my phone is gone, it gave me a better experience, obviously, because it's at the theater.
Well, some movies require a theatrical experience. Like, for example, Horizon 2. I think those movies, and Horizon 1, I think require a theatrical experience because if you are at home and Costner's biggest thing is this is not a TV show, this is a movie, but it feels like a TV show to me and I'm watching it. If I'm watching at home, I'm going to pause at the natural break and I might watch the rest the next day.
It looks like a streaming series cut together as a film.
And so if you don't see it in a theater, you're just going to kind of edit it the way that you want to, and you're going to view it the way you want to.
You won't be as captive to what he's trying to say.
And there's lots of movies like that. But I think require you need to be locked in a room with other people and held accountable to actually watch the screen.
Do you think he's catering to like the Yellowstone fans that are going to go see?
Oh, for sure.
That?
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, I
want to give them.
I don't know if
want.
that's his intention because he's wanted to make this movie for
Since
decades.
The 80s.
Yeah, he's wanted to make this forever.
Okay,
at least that's what he says. He's wanted to make this movie for so long, and he's constantly been told like no. But this is like this is a guy who made Dances with Wolves, and he's a
Draft Day.
Waterworld.
He's a good director, though, is what I'm saying. And it's like Kubrick or anybody else, we should all be really excited and happy that this national treasure we have, Kevin Costner, has made a movie, and we should all be interested in that. And even if we don't like Francis Coppola's Megalopolis, we should be so grateful that it's there, because you might not like it today, but like I said, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, you might watch it and go, oh, that's what he was saying. Yeah. That's what he was thinking. That's what he meant. Or now I'm older and more mature, I understand. Or now I have kids, and so I have a different perspective, or, whatever. I'm in a different chapter of my life, and it speaks to me now.
I'll take that all day, every day over a Captain America movie that exists because of a TV show that is exclusively on Disney+.
Well, that's also the weirdest thing is now with those, the multiverse for those movies is so vast that I don't only have to watch all the movies that came before, but I have to know about like the TV miniseries. And I love Sonic, and I love the Sonic franchise. There you go. Segue. But I love Sonic. But like, I don't want to watch the Knuckles prequel necessarily. I just want to see like movies 1, 2, and 3. And I've played the games, so like I know the lore. But, like, do I want to watch the I'm sorry, not the Knuckles prequel. Well, there is a Knuckles prequel
on Paramount Plus.
On Paramount Plus. But do I want to watch the Shadow Maria story that if you haven't played the games, you need to watch to know it's canon, to know they're not technically in love with each other, so that like when you're in the theater, you don't think it's weird. Well, no, I don't want to watch that. I just want to watch the movie.
It's fine having extra stuff, but if I have to fucking watch a web video in order to understand Prometheus, because the story isn't fully there in that movie. Like, I'm watching it, it's like violating the other films. It doesn't make sense to me, and I'm sure it makes sense to Ridley Scott. But the problem is it's been parsed out and diced up into pieces, and they've got like explanatory moments like put on.
Just wait, Dad, because in some of the Marvel movies now you have to go play the newest Fortnite season to know the story. No, they did that. No. So they had like an Easter egg in Fortnite that they referenced in one of the movies, and it's like people that don't play Fortnite. I play Fortnite, but people that don't play Fortnite are like, what is this? Like, when did this happen?
Can we just go back to the novelizations of movies?
Look, like just the Ice Age novels.
Our beloved,
amazing movies.
Our beloved studio systems are they're just doing their best to try to figure out how to deal with what's happening in culture and technology.
Sure.
And at the same time, they're trying to, like make as much money as they can.
Yeah.
And so like, that's how our systems work. And that's just how things are. And it's not a good thing, but it's just how it is.
I know. I just wish that like I didn't have to watch a whole TV series on a streaming service that I haven't paid for in order to understand the movie that I'm buying a ticket for to go see.
Right. And I really hate it because like you get all these comic book movies and like we ourselves have read a fair few comics and it sucks because like these movies come out and you're like, damn, they could have made a good story which exists in just a plethora of them. There's
And it's
a backlog.
already storyboarded.
Yeah,
right
they're
there.
all right
Yeah,
there.
you've got it all already.
Yeah.
Well, that's why I think last night somebody asked me a question about screenplays. What should I read? And one of the ones I brought up was the Sam Hamm script of Batman, and his screenplay for Batman was like this kind of proto material they mined for years afterwards. They did not. I don't think that first Batman movie, even though I kind of like it, there were little things in it, like there's a moment when the Joker the Joker, Jack Nicholson, has a gun on Bruce Wayne, and in the screenplay, and the woman is there. I can't remember her name, but
Vicky Vale.
Vicky Vale, thank you. Vicky Vale is there, and the Joker's got a gun on him, and Bruce Wayne falls to his knees and begs him not to kill him. And the Joker's like, sees him as so pathetic. It's just like, you're just like, he doesn't even regard, you're not even worth killing.
Right.
And that was his strategy. And because he has to be Bruce Wayne also. Okay, they changed that because,
Michael Keaton?
Probably Michael Keaton. I
That
really,
was a total
look,
improvisation.
I really like Michael, but he probably was like, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
Bruce Wayne's not going to do that. There's no way I'm going to do that.
I'm the cynical asshole. I have to do XYZ.
Okay, from my perspective, as written in the screenplay, I thought it was genius. The way it's done now, like the Joker actually shoots him in like his cigarette case or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
Blocks
like
the bullet, and it's
like
like,
a vanity
that was a
plate, yeah.
stupid move on Bruce. So I think they for all the wrong reasons, they made that change to the screenplay. He also had in it the original, the genesis of Robin.
Yes.
And like that Sam Hamm script is so good. And all he did was go to Frank Miller. I mean, he basically looked at Frank Miller and just did what Frank Miller was doing.
Right.
And he did it really well. And it was I think it's a perfect script.
And I don't think he included the Joker as the criminal that killed Bruce Wayne's parents, which was kind of the overall like why people hate that movie.
Right. Totally changed. Yeah.
Yeah, because the idea is that it's just a criminal, a common criminal that does this, which is why he has to stop crime. That's the whole fucking thing. Anyways, I agree.
Well, I wanted to ask you about, like you're talking about writing a screenplay and then it being changed later. You've written and directed, but you've also written and had somebody else at the helm for directing. What's that like?
Well, it depends. It depends.
Well, I think your Silent Hill story is a really great example.
Yeah,
of
I mean,
this.
it's a good example because, look, I looked at Silent Hill as a little bit like Wizard of Oz.
Okay.
You're in Kansas for a while and you're in reality. You're in black and white Kansas, and then she goes to Oz, and then you're in a different movie. And so there was I wrote this whole kind of prologue to the film that takes place that takes place in the real world. And it's the explanation for why they end up in Silent Hill. And it has to do with, an over-attentive mother and doctors getting involved in pharmaceuticals and people diagnosing the child incorrectly and, them forcing her to, I think it even involved shock therapy. It involved all sorts of stuff. And there was all this kind of stuff in there. And they went off to make the movie, and they didn't have the money to have me there all the time. But in the premiere, I'm sitting in the premiere, and I basically realized, oh my God, they cut the entire opening. They cut the body of the opening out. And what happened was they were making the movie, and then the time came to do those scenes, and they run out of money. And they were like, well, we've got to cut pages. Let's just cut all that shit. Like that stuff that's
Right to Silent Hill. Fuck it.
Yeah.
cut all that boring stuff at the beginning.
It changes what the movie means.
It changes
Right.
what the movie means, and it had a damaging effect on the arcs of the characters, and it leaves a lot of questions in my mind even as I watched the movie. And so that in other ways, I worked also really, like when we were working on the script, I worked really closely with Christoph, and that was a budget thing that happened. That happened because producers and the studio and
the game developer too, I'm sure.
No, actually, Akira Yamaoka was amazing. He was fantastic.
Okay.
And what we did was we basically made a presentation for him, telling him what we were going to do and, what our plan was, and with a long treatment, and we presented it to him, and over a very small process, he basically told us the changes he wanted us to make, which we made. And then he said, okay, now just go make the movie. And Konami and him pretty much stayed out of our business because we were in love with the game. I mean, when we were working on the screenplay in Paris, we literally had Silent Hill 2 on, and we would discuss camera angles and how the camera moves in the game.
That's a top 5 game for me.
And
easy.
So cool.
Yeah, Silent Hill 2 is, and I understand that Christoph has actually gone back and made another Silent Hill movie, which I think is a direct adaptation, like almost a verbatim adaptation. I think. I don't know for certain.
I'm not sure.
I'm not sure.
I know that they were maybe trying to get a TV series.
All I know is
while.
they called me and asked me if I wanted to be involved, and I said no.
Oh,
So I just didn't want to be involved in another
gotcha.
after them cutting the
Yeah.
opening.
Yeah.
Well, you want to write a bunch of stuff that we're not going to use?
And sometimes things get executed in a way that you wouldn't do yourself. In Beowulf, I think Zemeckis is one of the greatest directors. I love him. I think, and I adore his work. When we were making Beowulf, I was originally going to direct the movie. To make a long story short, I've said that story before people can source it. I basically sold it to Zemeckis to make, and he invited me into the process. Me and Neil Gaiman, we came into the process. We worked with them. Again, we were really part of the filmmaking process. I thought he just wanted to pay us and get rid of us.
Right.
And he did the opposite. He was like, come on in, boys, and we would sit there, and he was inventing technologies. We had motion control rigs in the editing room because it was a production room. And so we would go do all of the mocap stuff and then bring all that data back in. And then they would kind of do a rough version of it. And then we were able to take camera angles, and with a little video camera that had motion sensors on it, we were able to kind of design camera moves and do stuff.
Were you instinctually I don't want any part of this digital version?
No, I was very excited by it. Okay. I mean, I was excited by it because I was going to do the opposite. My plan was to make it like Jabberwocky, the Terry Gilliam movie, dirty. And I think Jabberwocky is maybe the most accurate Dark Ages production. Everything is dirty. There's chickens and dirt and shit. And it's a Terry Gilliam universe.
Right.
And I just think it's magnificent. It's just a magnificent portrayal of the Dark Ages, but it's a low budget film. And part of what makes it dirty is it's low budget. He's trying to do a lot, but it has this big scale. And so I was going to make the movie in Iceland for under $10 million. And the dragon really wasn't a dragon. It really was me chasing Excalibur. I wanted to make Excalibur I always wanted to
just gritty and
Excalibur is not really a gritty movie. But it was more that
it's like a classic Arthurian legend.
Right.
It was just I'm so in love with Excalibur that I keep trying to write scripts and make movies that don't get made, that are like Excalibur and thematically similar to it. And if you watch Beowulf, you'll see that, it's Excalibur. It's all the same stuff. It's the father and the son come back to atone for the sins of the father. It's all that stuff. It's in there. And so I actually, it was so different than what I was going to do. It was such a drastic departure from what I was going to do that it was actually kind of exciting. And there was this promise of, we can do anything. And
because
also,
open-ended, yeah.
And also the promise, one of the promises was we've solved the Deadeye issue. I don't think they did. And actually I watch it now and it looks like a cutscene from from a video game, cutscene from a game.
I watched it last night to rewatch it because I saw it in high school. It was actually a high school middle school field trip. We were all reading Beowulf.
Same here.
Yeah, same.
Same
We all
exact
did that,
situation.
yeah.
It took us on a field trip, but I rewatched it to refresh my memory, and there are moments it holds up. But it's the facial expressions and the movements where it gets uncanny.
Well,
but it's like I had a great time watching.
Well,
it.
one of the problems was, and this is the problem when you're relying on things like this, is when we were making like the mask. Basically, we basically made a mold of Robin Wright's face so that you could scan it. And so when they were making the mold, she freaked out. She was just freaking out.
Oh,
She-
claustrophobic.
She had claustrophobia and she freaked out and she like had to get out of that. And so they took it off of her like before it was fully done. And I think half of the face was cracked. And so they basically, she wouldn't, I don't know if she wouldn't undergo it again, but the decision was made to not put her through that again. And they said, oh, we can fix it. But it never really fixed 100%. Faces aren't symmetrical.
Right.
And, and it did something by relying on, somebody faking it. It just did something to her, that character's face.
Well, to your point though, it holds up in that like the main actor, and I forget his name now. Of
Ray
course.
Winston. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Ray's
that's a
one brilliant. He's a sexy beast. He's a
Sexy
great
beast.
actor. He's
Isn't he in,
Sexy Beast is so good.
it's so good.
yeah, but
The Departed, Sexy Beast.
my-
But
I'm
Sexy
I'm trying
Beast
to
is
remember.
like,
He was in that like it's like a little rock and roll movie, like when he's like a young guy.
oh yeah,
The Fabulous Stains. Have you seen that?
No,
Oh
no.
my god. He's
Yeah,
so.
I'm a
when-
Sexy Beast guy first and foremost. All right. By name.
it's when
and
he's
by-
like young. It's like young,
no,
thin.
he's like young, like 17.
And
Oh, wow.
and what was originally for a while Zemeckis was before the rights returned to me and I went off and I was going to try to make it in Europe. His whole thing. He was originally going to produce the film. He just decided he wanted to direct it after a while. And when I was directing it, his whole thing with me was, how are you going to do the old man version of him? How are you going to do that? And I said, well, I'm just going to cast an actor and I'm going to do what they did like in Excalibur. They had Nigel Terry play young. And through acting, we feel a young man, and then he ages, and you give him a beard, and then you start adding gray to it, and it's acting. It's a movie, but that's not how Zemeckis works, and that's not how he thinks.
Right.
He's not like that. I am. He's not. And his whole thing is, well, maybe what we can do is we can, take an old man's head and graft it on, or take our actor and graft his face onto an old man's body. Like he had all these digital things.
or use the old man.
Yeah.
that's
What if we did it in a different way though?
And it was all about getting the old man body correct. And then when he actually went through the process and he didn't share with us, and I wish he had, because there came a point after 300 came out where everything became very secretive on the film. And he wasn't even sharing stuff with us until it was already basically locked and done. And one of those things was character design. The original character design was they took a composite and they basically designed that Beowulf character to be a little bit of Peter O'Toole, a little bit like a little bit of a number of actors. Peter O'Toole, I remember, was one of them. And so they kind of made this character, this Beowulf character. I feel like he was too old in the young man versions, and he was too young in the old man versions, even though that was the whole point of his doing it with mocap.
But just funny,
It's
like the whole thing CG. Fuck it. And
then he didn't
go the distance.
like he didn't commit
Right.
to his original purpose of it. And I looked at it and was like, it just looks like you just took the same guy and just added a little gray to his beard. Why did you do that? And can we change that? And he's like, it's too late, guys.
That's strange to me though, in that Back to the Future, he did excellent young, old characters where it's like it was just makeup. It was.
But between that, he did a movie called Contact. And that was when he first started having, maybe not first, but because probably Death Becomes Her is probably his original
moment.
That was when he started really committing to CG. But I remember, and I didn't know him back then, but I was friends with a guy who was working on his sound crew, and so I sat in on a bunch of stuff. And he started taking and guys, get that eyebrow lift from take 3 and graft it onto her face in take 5. And, hey, you know what? I really like how she lifts her the side of her mouth in take 7. Put that on take 5 also. And he was doing all this stuff. And so even in that movie, and it's invisible.
Yeah, it is.
It's really,
And also,
and
because he's a master, he really is a master. And he's
We think of that running shot of Jenna Malone, is that her name? When she's like running into the mirror. And
it's a great scene. And like, I think Castaway, I love Castaway. I think Flight is my favorite Zemeckis film.
Yes,
So good.
yes.
I mean, one,
I'm drunk now.
I'm drunk now.
We constantly talk about that.
One, it deals with alcoholism and his experience with alcoholism. So it's maybe, from my perspective, his most personal film. That scene in the hotel room,
I know exactly.
with the tapping,
Yeah.
the devil tapping at the door from the room next door, that is magically opened, and when he's able to go into the adjacent connecting room that has a mini bar. And also the scene in the hospital where everyone meets on the floor. Some people are basically going down to the morgue. Other people are going up. Like, everything about that film is just master filmmaking.
Brilliant.
And I guarantee he's doing the same thing with Denzel Washington. He's like, take that eyebrow from take 12 and put it on take 5.
That shot of the liquor bottle on top of the refrigerator, he leaves it. It's just still standing there. He walks away, and then that snatch when he comes back for it.
Yeah.
That goosebumps every single time I think of that.
And that plane crash.
The plane.
The plane crash.
Oh, yeah,
cool.
the title sequence.
I mean, yeah, exactly. And so I think this guy is, and that's why I was like, I don't know if I would have let anybody, buy Beowulf and direct it, because I was committed to doing it. He was one of the few people that I would have considered in that time. And Neil and I talked about it, when the time was happening, like, who would we sell this to? Like, who is the person other than me that could make this movie that we would appreciate?
Did you have anyone else besides Zemeckis?
Terry Gilliam.
Of course.
was one. But no one would make, DreamWorks would not touch it. We actually were begging them to do it with Terry Gilliam, and they were like, no,
Really?
no. Absolutely no.
Was this pre
12 Monkeys?
Was that pre 12 Monkeys?
No, I think this was well after 12
Well
Monkeys. This was, let me see, what year was this? Was probably like
2006.
It's before Parnassus.
I thought there was a large gap after you wrote it, and then it.
Well, yeah, there was a large gap.
Okay,
but it came and went. It came and went.
All right, I have a question that we can delete, but I genuinely am curious.
Okay.
Did you ever ask Zemeckis why Eric Stoltz was not?
Yes, I did. And actually, I watched a video last night where Eric himself talked about it.
Really?
And so I feel comfortable talking about it. And I preface this by saying, Eric was in my first film, Killing Joe.
And Rules of Attraction.
And
we love Eric very much.
And Eric is like...
Pulp Fiction as well?
Yeah, and Pulp Fiction.
He's in everything.
He's a family friend. He's I consider him a brother. Like, I love him. I love his family. And so everything I say is, I hope I get it right. And I hope I don't offend anybody. I think I called him and I asked him, or maybe it was around Rules of Attraction. And I said, what happened on that? And
On Back to the Future, right?
On
He's
Back to
almost
the Future.
Marty McFly.
Yeah. Because he
was they shot it.
They shot like, a large portion of the movie. They were well into the movie to a point where you would think there's no way they're going to do this.
Yeah.
And they fired him. And he says it was devastating. To be a young actor and to be fired on a studio film, it destroys you. And I don't mean it destroys you personally. In the eyes of the industry, like, you are untouchable in that moment. And thank God he recovered from that. But he recovered from that, I think, mostly thanks to the independent community and his commitment to independent cinema at that point.
Yeah.
And what Eric told me basically to wrap it up really quickly was, Zemeckis was a Huey Lewis and the News guy, and I was into the Talking Heads.
Okay.
And that's basically was the difference between us. And he was trying to do Huey Lewis and the News, and I'm more Talking Heads. Like, I'm, that's just our vibe.
Different, yeah.
We were just ideologically, coming from different places. I mean, I've seen the footage from that he shot, or some of it, from Back to the Future. And he's great in it. Like
I'm sure he
it's-
was so impressive in Killing Zoe.
Yeah, it's a different movie.
God,
I
and
mean,
have you seen Mask?
Yes,
Okay,
a long
yes,
time ago.
because I
Yeah.
love-
the water dance. Have you seen the water dance?
No.
The water dance is the reason I cast him in Killing Zoe. He made this movie. Do you know who Neil Jimenez is?
River's Edge.
Neil
he directed
wrote-
this movie River's Edge.
He wrote.
Oh, I thought he directed.
No, Tim Hunter directed River's Edge.
He wrote River's
but
Edge.
he wrote River's Edge, and it's like he's a young guy living in Stockton or something, like middle of California, and maybe Sacramento. And he's a young guy. He sells a screenplay in Hollywood. He's stoked. This is great.
And Keanu's in it, and Kristen
He goes out with his
Glover's in
pal.
it,
He goes out with his pals, and I guess they do what they do there, and they
Hiking.
go hiking and drinking and hiking. And while drinking and hiking, he fell and he became paralyzed and from the waist down. And basically, the water dance is his story, which he directed, of his experience of what it was to be paralyzed, to become paralyzed, and then to become even worse paralyzed as a result of And so Eric, who's a method actor, is in that movie, and he stayed in the chair, the entire time. Like, cameras stop rolling, he's still in character, and he became Neil for the making of that movie. And for anybody who wants to know what the arc is, that could happen to any of us, God forbid, could happen to any of us. It's an important film, I would say. It's an important film because it talks about an experience that what you perceive the worst thing that can happen to you, how your life can be seemingly destroyed. It's not, you're alive. It's just things are different. Mm-hmm. And you just have a different kind of set of challenges. And his exploration into that is just like, it's watching an artist process things through his work, through this film, process emotionally what he's going through. And that's what excites me in a movie. And so I saw Eric in that, and I'd always loved Eric. Like, I think the Mask.
Mask is an amazing, and
the
I love
Bogdanovich film Mask. Yeah.
Cher in it is, I just love her.
She's great.
Her. As a biker mom, it's like so cool.
Yeah. And so I'd always been a fan of his, but it wasn't until I watched The Water Dance, I was like, it's me. I don't. He can play me. I can see him playing Zed in Killing Zoe, which was a kind of version of me, kind of
composite.
Well, like The Water Dance, you were telling your own story basically through it.
A little bit, yeah.
From your time in
I mean, I never robbed
Paris.
banks, and I've never done heroin.
That we know of. I mean,
A couple
to be
small
fair.
differences.
But yeah, that we know of. But and so seeing that film, I was like, okay, I've got to meet this guy. I have to talk him into it. And Quentin bumped into him, I think, on the street in New York.
Oh, wow.
And he's like, oh, you have to meet my friend Roger. He's talking about you. And so actually, thank you, Quentin, for that, because
he won't watch this.
What he did though by doing that, by literally bumping into Eric Stoltz on the street in New York and just saying, you've got to call my friend Roger. He basically made a friend of mine for life while doing that. Wow. And he cast my film for me by doing that.
Did that happen again with you with Clifton Collins Jr.?
Clifton, I think he just...
A great character actor, by the way.
Yeah,
I
Just
love
one of the
Clifton.
best.
a great actor. He did this movie Jockey that came out recently that's fantastic, and he's another guy who's a committed actor, and he does a lot of but like Bill Paxton. Bill Paxton in many ways was like a character actor, but then he had his moment, in
Aliens,
making big movies, and
he became a leading man.
He
and
became
then
a
went
twister and stuff like that.
Back to being a character
and then very
actor.
gradually he slowly transitioned back, and he was suddenly he's a character actor, and he's doing like Nightcrawler and movies like that. And I love Nightcrawler. If you've seen Nightcrawler, I think. Yeah. Quentin, I hope he's not watching this part now, but like, to me, Nightcrawler is almost the Quentin Tarantino story. Like he's almost playing a kind of version of a person who's just like that obsessive, living in a room, just 100% his life is, I mean, in that case, it's being what are those guys called? The
Video journalist.
Yeah, the video.
Yeah, the guys
Ambulance
that get there-
chaser, yeah.
the
Nightcrawlers.
Yeah,
the Nightcrawler. Yeah, he's being a Nightcrawler. And anyhow, it's a fantastic film, and I miss Bill.
I've never
I miss
thought of
Bill.
that interpretation of Nightcrawler,
Yeah.
but now I have to rewatch it with Quentin in mind.
How did you meet Clifton though?
Just in casting. He came in casting, and he gave us a terrific. And he was amazing. Actually, he came in and he started performing, and I said, "Hey, Clifton, are you doing Sam Jackson?" He's like, "Yeah, I am." He's like, and he and Sam are buddies, and so there was a little bit of.
Well, in Rules of Attraction, he more so felt like the Eric Stoltz character to me from Pulp Fiction. Like he kind of had that. I mean, basically the same job, right? They're both kind of
They're and actually it's funny because Steve-O, the guy who the Eric Stoltz character is based on in Pulp Fiction, the guy who's wearing his bathrobe and eating cereal and not now, Lost Boys. I'm just about to watch Lost Boys. Or I'm watching Lost Boys, not now. That was a friend of ours who worked at Video Archives named Steve-O, a beloved friend of ours named Steve-O. And so, when you're writing, your friends. And I think Steve-O would probably have played that part if we had made Pulp Fiction as like a low budget. I mean, it was a low budget movie, but an even lower budget movie. So
the lowest budget movie.
And so anyhow, Clifton is he came in, he gave just a dynamite, and then he showed range. He takes direction like really, really well. He's really a pro. His grandfather was, like John Wayne's right-hand guy. He's Gonzalez. He's in like all of John Wayne's movies, and they were like tight. They were like buddies. Like John Wayne wouldn't do a movie unless Gonzalez was in the movie also. And so
even the Genghis Khan movie.
Yeah. And he's actually in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood playing his grandfather.
Clifton
is in the movie.
No way.
Yeah.
So when I saw him pop up in Lucky Day, I was like, oh, this guy. Like it's great to see him whenever he pops up on screen. And one of those like snap actors, at least for me, in that being a character actor is like everything. I love a character actor.
I mean, and I feel like we have less and less character actors nowadays.
No, because everyone is gorgeous now. And
well, not only
and also,
that,
who wants to be an actor?
Well,
right.
I mean,
they want to be a movie star.
I mean, there are people, I say that in a very flip way because I know that there are people out there who are committed to the craft and who still approach it, as a craft.
Right.
The industry is just not supporting them as much anymore.
Right.
And
those bit parts are going to Austin Butler.
Yeah.
everybody, there came a point actually just when, I think it was when we were doing Lucky Day, where I realized I'm not meeting actors. I'm meeting people who are acting, but the acting part is only a small component.
Oh, like the influencer.
They're influencers.
That was mostly we worked on this project called Unwind, which was based on it was like a YA
Right,
project of like a New York Times bestselling novel by Neil Shusterman.
Oh, okay.
And when we were doing the casting for it, that was the first time that I heard people say, "Well, what are their follower accounts on Instagram?" Okay, well these people are YouTubers, and so we should cast them. And all of a sudden it was like, but what about these actual actors?
The reason Nina is in
in Lucky Day.
I love Nina, and I wanted Nina to be in the movie. One of the reasons is she's Canadian, and the movie was made Canadian, and we had to cast Canadians. And so that was one of the reasons, but I was like really wanting Nina to be in the film. Well, everyone was uncertain. They're like, I don't know, we're not certain. It's they were just uncertain about her until they saw her Instagram account. Was it Instagram?
Yeah, it was Instagram.
Her Instagram account. And then they were like, oh, okay. Yeah, she passes. It was her Instagram that it wasn't that I wanted her to be in the movie.
Right.
The studio allowed it, or the producers allowed it, and even then I had to like fight for her.
But it's interesting. I also think though that like the actors that would now typically be character actors, and I'll use Willem Dafoe maybe as an example. I feel like he's playing the same character now in every movie that he's in. And it's almost a little bit, I'll give it to Nick Cage a little bit too. I feel like you're not seeing him playing a character, you're seeing him play himself.
It's their firebrand.
Yeah,
it's their brand. I mean, Willem Dafoe has a rubber face. Like he can turn his face into it gets weird. His eyes bug out.
In the last like 5 or 6 movies he's been in, like he's Willem Dafoe. It's not even like he is like a character. It's just like he is him.
Well, he's like so famous, it's hard to see past his face
But he used
sometimes.
to
Where
have-
it's like, well,
Well,
that's just Willem Dafoe.
Well,
being
also,
him.
look, he's of a certain age, and you know he's probably looking at it like he's probably like me. He's like, what is Hollywood now? What is the movie industry? And what are these movies that I'm getting offered? Like the movies that are
Well, I
coming
think
in.
he's
What is all of
I
this?
think he's enjoying it, but like
And so he's just having fun with it.
I'm more
probably.
mean though. I think that actors that would have maybe transitioned into being character actors, or maybe it's just his stardom is so much that you get overshadowed. But like we've lost character actors, and it's more replaced with titans that play the same person every single time.
Right.
And then you identify them, and you're like, oh, he's in this movie. He's just going to play himself, and I really like this actor, so I'm going to go. Rather than like you go see a movie and Bill Paxton shows up and he's playing a character in it.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know. At least with that, Willem Dafoe looks a certain way. And that's the role that they're casting him for now. It's
Right.
like the crazy old guy, right?
The crazy old doctor
Old
who like
Je-
maybe
old
has
Jesus.
a weird sexual
Right.
relationship with the character in the movie.
Yeah.
But I'm going to fight for this, all right? When we're talking actors, Dwayne The Rock Johnson. He gets so much flack for being the same guy when, in fact, fucking look at him, dude. What else is he going to play? A
Yeah.
scientist?
he's a rock. That's why that's his name.
Well, they actually can't use the term "The Rock" because that was his like W. That's why
Yeah,
he's
that's a
Dwayne
character. That's a
Johnson.
trademarked character.
Yeah.
He owns that character
Does he
now
own it
because
now?
he is
Well,
on
but
the
now
board.
He's back on the board,
Oh,
so
yeah.
now he does.
He
But-
owns his own.
But there was a
So-
period
shit
there
now.
where he wasn't able to use that, I think.
Yeah, for a while.
So my favorite Rock performance is in Star
Yeah,
Trek
yeah.
Voyager. He plays in the Sinkatsi episode
Sinkatsi,
against
yeah.
7 of 9.
But he is a pro
He's
wrestler.
like a pro wrestler.
Yeah, it's a pro. He's literally playing a pro wrestler in
His
it.
forehead is the only thing that's different. He's
No, and it's awesome. And
still doing the eyebrow and shit.
he has
I'm
a
like,
bicep on his forehead.
no, and he's like literally battling. Is it Jerry Ryan?
Yeah, it's Jerry
Yes,
Ryan.
Jerry Ryan.
7 of 9, yeah.
7 of
Yeah.
9. 7 of mine. Assimilate me. But yeah, he's basically. I'm just going to start quoting Star Trek at this point. Like, I'm just going to devolve into
Stop.
that. I know. Stop me now.
I learned the lore for that episode because I was such a
Because
huge
you were
wrestling
such a
fan.
huge wrestling fan. Yeah, of course. But isn't that just so funny though? It's like even him who's a character actor, I'll put that in quotes, but I think he wants to be an action star like Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Well, yeah, I mean,
He is
like
that. Yeah.
there was a
Is
time when Arnold
he?
Schwarzenegger was told, one with your name and the way you look, what are you going to be? Like Hercules in New York, which I think was his first, maybe not his first film. I think his first film,
Conan, right?
Conan the Barbarian, right?
No, Hercules in New York. No, it wasn't Conan the Barbarian. It was the Elliot Gould, Dashiell Hammett detective
I know you're
movie
looking at me, but I'm not
directed
gonna
by
know.
Robert Altman. The Long Goodbye. The Long Goodbye is
he in
his
The
first
Long
film.
Goodbye?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he's
That
one
was
of
his
the
first
he's one of like the bodyguards.
He
in The
plays a
Long Goodbye.
bodyguard, and he does this thing with his pecs, where his pecs start.
It's actually yeah.
That's the Terry
Alternating.
Crews evolution.
Yeah,
But Terry Crews.
it's
in
crazy.
Idiocracy.
It's crazy when you suddenly see Schwarzenegger in that movie, and then there's also Pumping Iron. I guess technically not.
But Terry Crews
dramatic
in
film. But he
Idiocracy
has
is so
he has a
good.
huge amount of range. He has proven that like it doesn't really matter what you look like. People will give it up to you.
Agreed.
If you're
I just wanted to talk about The Rock for a second.
Well, the last action
can talk
hero,
about The Rock.
The Last Action Hero is an amazing
Oh,
movie.
yeah.
that
great
moment
movie.
in The
It's
Last Action
commenting
Hero
on himself.
when he sees his movie self, his character basically, and he turns to himself and he says, "You've brought me nothing but misery. You've brought me nothing but pain." It's one of those two. When he basically tells himself that is a very like self-reflective moment that's happening in a very, very big movie.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting, like, because that movie is a commentary, like, not just on action stars, it's a commentary on his roles as an action star and his perspective on that. It's a very, very interesting,
I
very
think
interesting
more
movie.
so in Jingle All the Way when he's like, "You ate my cookies." Like that.
Right.
That to me, there's the
Yeah.
passion behind that line. No,
My question is,
I'm sure he like, cared as much about Jingle All the Way as
It's a great movie.
any other role he did. I think
it's a beloved movie,
I think he's the
too.
kind of guy based on, who you become when you're a competitive bodybuilder, that he is striving for excellence and he's striving to be the best, and he's just got that attitude, and it doesn't matter what he's in, he's going to be the best that he can be in that.
Yeah.
And
Even politics. He's like, "I'm going to be the fucking governor."
it was we call
the
him
Governator.
the
Governator, yeah.
Okay, so did you see Red One?
I did.
He did.
I'm the cinephile
So,
of the group, so
yeah,
I saw
you're-
Red One.
Okay, but The Rock is in that, right?
Yeah, he
you
is.
just
Yeah, he is.
didn't go. You, the super fan, did
Don't
not
you
go.
care?
So I guess you're full of shit.
Yeah.
No, you have to save something for later in life.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That'll be
have
one of
some-
those.
I haven't caught up with all the best pictures, to be fair. So
I still haven't seen The Brutalist. I was probably going to watch that tonight.
Yeah, I haven't seen The Brutalist yet either.
Yeah.
So and that
you
is
don't have 3 hours on you?
and that is totally the kind of movie I would not just want to see, but probably want to make. You know, it's exactly like something
You
that
should see it before you say that.
Well,
I think.
what I imagine it is from look. I mean, I looked at Megalopolis as well and thought.
You also thought I would want to make that.
Well, I mean, I'm looking at that, and I think that's a movie that's commenting on like Freemasonry.
Well, I
and-
just think it's awesome that these guys are making these like. Even though I personally don't want to go sit down and watch a 3-hour movie with it, I mean, I'm glad there's an intermission. That's an
sure.
amazing thing. Thank
I love
God.
that.
And they added an extra 5 minutes. I heard in the 70mm screenings because they didn't account for the time to clean the platters.
Oh, wow.
So they had to add 5 extra minutes to it. But like, I'm glad that those movies are being made. I'm glad they're making giant 3-hour long epics.
I love what he said about it. It's like, well, you're saying that people can sit on their couch and watch a full season of television, and we can do that for, like superhero shows, right? But you're telling me that an adult story has to be told in 90 minutes
Right.
And we are huge proponents of 90-minute bangers. Like that's our thing. We love
Gala-
a 90-minute film. But for a movie like
that's
that,
Gala as well.
important.
It's like-
70 minutes.
She's like 70 minutes. What is a feature? Technically 65 minutes.
Yeah, 65 minutes. I'm
So
good.
I think according to the Academy,
is that a
that's it.
Chaplin film? Like that?
No,
I
it's a
feel like those come in at
70-minute
70.
Bud Buttiker Western, specifically with
Yeah,
Ridley Scott.
like when you're Bud Buttiker, you can tell a complete, satisfying story
in like 70
and deliver the action and deliver all everything that you need in a movie. You can deliver it quickly, and you get an extra show every day. So I would think that by making his long movie, he shot himself and financing himself. He basically shot himself in the
for
foot.
Megalopolis. But also, I think though,
And also for for Costner. I mean,
Costner and- yeah.
if you're planning on going theatrical, like be smart about it and maybe give somebody something that you're not going to get on TV theatrical or that you can't get on TV. I mean, most people don't have film projectors in their homes.
Right.
And so that kind of gives a reason to go to the movies. That's why the Texas Theater, has audiences coming to these old movies. It's because they're getting something they can't get at home.
100%.
You can get a video of it now, but in the case of a movie being released, that's kind of gone away. People now look at it like, well, it'll be at home in less than a week.
Yeah, that's the kind
And so why should I? And I do that as well. It's just like, I'm like, oh my God, I'm working, I'm traveling, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. I want to see
it's
this,
also-
but then
it's
like
not
I'm in Europe or
theaters
whatever.
Long enough is
Yeah.
the thing.
No.
Because it's like
17 days.
I want to go see a movie, and it's like I have to coordinate. Like I want to go take my mom. Like
You have to drop everything you're doing
you
to
have
go
to
watch it.
literally. I went to go see what was that movie? Flight or not Flight? I'm sorry,
Flight Risk.
No, Flight Risk.
Let's
I went
go.
to go see Flight Risk, which I really wanted to see it, but then the only reason I almost went to go see it in 4DX, and they canceled the 4DX screening of it.
Oh no.
And like replaced it with like some other movie, and I was like, okay, whatever. Yeah, 4DX, where the seat rumbles, which sometimes I saw Twister in 4DX or Twisters.
I heard that was the best one.
So we were supposed to see Twister and then Twisters back to back in 4DX, and the same theater
Out 'em, dude.
canceled the screening of Twister.
What?
And just
Why?
like canceled it. They were like, "Oh, we're gonna do Twisters anyway." But like we had
It
bought
probably
tickets
is like so much shit that it costs them more to run a screening if they
Yeah.
don't like sell enough tickets or something.
instead did Twisters. They just like replaced the movie, didn't tell anyone. So we had
okay.
2 tickets to Twisters. I'm just like, But so Twisters was amazing because they made that movie like with 4DX in mind.
Hell
and so
yeah.
like
It's probably a roller coaster ride.
I
Yeah.
had never felt more proud to be an American. When I'm in Twisters and the wind starts picking up and I start crying because I have to run into the pool with them and hold on and the little kid is screaming. It was amazing. I went to go see Sonic 3 in 4DX because my friends took me. Did not like it in 4DX.
She didn't watch The Brutalist, by the way.
But I saw Sonic 3 twice in theaters.
There you go.
But I saw it in 4DX. It was too much. It was not thought out. I was jostled around too much. I didn't love it. I tried to go see Flight Risk. Mm-hmm. They canceled the screening. So I took my mom and my brother and we went to the Cinepolis Dine-In. That movie is wild. Like the fact that
Did you get some fish stew?
No, why would I get fish stew?
No, that's what Brady Sinella said. Like, I just don't want to go to a movie and somebody's eating fish stew next to
Yeah.
me.
No,
And I just love that he chose fish stew.
Yeah.
Because that just sounds like
repugnant.
disgusting.
Yeah.
I
it
would
sounds
never.
like ridiculous, but that's like,
No, but
it's ridiculous.
Someone has fajitas next to you.
No,
Yes. A starry night pie.
nachos. I had a whole plate of nachos with like full thing. But the fact that Flight Risk, I had to literally drop everything to go see Flight Risk. What universe am I dropping everything to go see that movie? Because it's only in theaters for like a week or two.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
Max.
And like I just wanted to go see a movie.
HBO Max.
But it shouldn't be like that. I shouldn't have to like drop my entire life.
Right.
No, and
to
these
go
poor
see
people
a
that are
movie.
out and see a trailer for something on, let's say, YouTube, and they're like, "Oh wait, I can't wait to see that." My mom was talking about,
And it's already gone.
and it's gone.
Yeah, that happened to me with Megalopolis.
You know, and
It was gone right away.
It was gone instantly.
It was even worse than that.
Didn't even see it
The content of
theatrically.
the film.
I had
was gone.
alerts for tickets, and I was like waiting for Megalopolis, and you were gone for 1 week.
Yeah.
And in that 1 week, it came and went. And I was like, come on. I had alerts for tickets. I have alerts right now for the Minecraft movie. I have alerts for that
You're a
new-
true cinephile.
Yeah, I know, right? For the new Jason Statham child trafficking movie.
What is that one?
It's the guy that did The Beekeeper.
The child keeper.
David Ayer.
Yeah, but he's fighting child traffickers. So we got to go see that.
David Ayer.
Yeah, David Ayer did it.
Shut up.
And I actually love David Ayer's work, and I loved The Beekeeper.
The Beekeeper's awesome.
It may be one.
But you missed that in theaters because I went to go see
Yeah.
it. I was raving about it. And by the time that he was like, okay, we can go, it was gone and on demand.
It was gone, and so I ended up watching it at home.
Yeah, so like,
Damn.
I think a movie.
And still loved it.
It's amazing. I think a movie like The Brutalist, though, like, if I see it, I have to see it in a theater because I just think the experience at home might not be great. But with the times, like, you have to go see it so fast, I'm not ready to see it yet. The hype around movie really like affects me deeply. And sometimes like a movie will be so overhyped that when I see it, I don't like it. And so I try to give myself enough time.
Substance.
Like probably The Substance, to be honest. I mean, I don't know if I told you my whole story about seeing The Substance and like who I saw it with and stuff, but it's like when a movie's too hyped, I'm like, you know what? I need time away from it.
Yeah.
To
I
like
totally
actually
get that.
have my own opinion.
I'm with you on that. It's not like a contrarian thing. It's not like maybe a little bit of that, but it is like you're influenced by the like collective consciousness of everybody going, this is great and you're gonna love this, go see it, and you have this like pressure to almost be like, you were right, it was good. You have bias going in.
so little now that when something comes out that is great or
That's
even
true.
or even remotely great, even closer great, or you'll even like elevate it more, you'll pretend that it's great because you want it to be great.
Amelia Brest.
Because we need because we're starving for stuff.
Right.
So sure, we get an Eggers movie every now and then, and Nolan is coming out with a film every now and then,
and Bong Joon-ho and
yeah, exactly. So you'll get like a couple of these coming through, but there used to be a time when you would have dozens of options to choose from, and usually the B grade stuff was also amazing,
Right.
And like in its own right, and so.
But kind of what you just said, though, with Nolan, with Bong Joon-ho, I think now directors are starting to become their own franchises.
well, it's the thing.
Well, that's it. You become a brand.
Yeah.
And then it's just the brand that gets sold. And so that's always probably been the way. I mean, Quentin was the Tarantino brand.
It's like when an author...
I can actually have a lot to thank for that.
But also,
of
like, I
course.
mean, back in the day, though, it's like John Borman. Like you as a cinephile would be like, I'm going to go see a John Borman.
Yeah, well, you
movie.
knew what you were going to get. It was like an author. It's like, this is an author I love.
Peck and Paw, same thing.
Yeah. Like I know what I'm going to
imagine.
get, and I might get a good one and I might get a bad one. I might get a good Coen Brothers film. I might get a bad Coen Brothers movie. Not bad, but not as good as, like maybe you love
if-
Raising
yeah, if you
Arizona.
It's
love
not as good as The Lady Killers. I mean,
Yeah.
Let's be real.
I've only seen the original, which is an amazing movie.
You haven't seen the Tom Hanks masterpiece?
No, I have not. I don't know if I've told you this. I'm not a Coen Brothers fan.
No, we haven't talked
Oh
about this.
no,
No, she and
It's almost like you
Let's
don't
not talk
talk to
about
it.
I know it's everyone's entitled to their opinion, however wrong they may be.
I want.
Correct.
No, I
And he always uses the thing of like when they are gone.
Yeah, when
you
they're-
will love them. And
well, it's more that like with Soderbergh, with the Coen Brothers in particular, with those two filmmakers, because they're close in age.
and also their output is so great.
Yeah, they're close.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so much output that
Consistent.
you get to a point where like oh, I love this, but I don't like that, and I that one. When in reality, a film like Side Effects, for example,
Yeah.
some people might just take or leave it. It's a bad Soderbergh. It's this Soderbergh. What was it not Magic Mike? Because I actually love Magic Mike. I think Magic Mike is the one Soderbergh movie that I'm jealous of.
Magic Mike 2, which I don't think he did.
Double XL?
Yeah, double. Thank you. Thank you for
No.
You know, you sound like my mom just watched the Warlock trilogy with my dad, and she refuses to call Warlock the Armageddon Warlock 2.
She's like, she was like, no, it's not part 2. It's its own thing. And my wife is never. I mean, she's actually not never like this, but she liked Warlock more than I did. What happened was I had this box set of Warlock, the 3 Warlock movies. And so I finally cracked it open because she was like, oh, let's watch something. And like, I want something that's like
fun. She loves like Conan the Barbarian, Starship Troopers, like
fantasy sci-fi.
Yeah,
fantasy sci-fi.
She likes fantasy
Galaxy
sci-fi.
Quest.
And so I'm like, okay, let's put on Warlock. And we're watching Warlock, and Warlock is fun. I really like Warlock. It's like, it's like elevated for that genre in that time. It's not A+, it's kind of like a B+ level thing. It's not Charlie Band, and he has some A+ work, but it's not like this bargain basement kind of production. It's like a real production. And Julian Sands is actually like really bringing it. Like he's playing an evil guy in it. And so I'm watching it and I'm like, yeah, this is pretty good. But the truth of the matter is I wasn't connecting it for whatever reason. And I was actually like kind of
falling asleep,
like almost falling asleep. I'd like,
we're a dad. It's bound to happen, man.
Yeah, I know. I'm getting old, I guess. And
no, it's literally when you become a father.
Yeah.
Just that moment.
You just take sleep when you can get it.
You hear an explosion and you're like,
but I just kind of was like going along with it. I was like appreciating it and I was enjoying it. And I'm like, it's good. But my wife was like, Warlock was great. Let's watch Warlock 2 tomorrow. And so I was like, okay. I mean, we'll watch all 3 of them. We pop in Warlock 2, and I'm expecting, more of the same, but worse. Usually that's how it goes, right? Usually.
Yeah.
There are outliers, but usually that's how it works.
Like Aliens.
Yeah, Aliens, for example,
Agree.
is
the $sign.
comparable. Some
better. I think it's better than Alien. I think Aliens.
Pump the brakes.
I think there are
we
2
can't
different
do this.
kinds
We
of
can't do
movies. They're 2 different. Those are 2 different kinds of movies, and both of them are excellent in their own way.
Well, it's
and they're different.
Well, it's like
they're
when you talk about the Exorcist trilogy to me. I think Exorcist is the last one out of all 3 of them, but I think it's like an A+ movie.
Well,
Okay, yeah.
I put on Warlock 2, and directed by Anthony Hickox, who I had never really paid attention to. I'm sorry, Anthony Hickox. I genuinely,
He's a fan of ours.
But in is he really? No.
Your friend Sean Baker, though,
Yeah,
we're
we
also
got
friends with him.
Sean Baker and Joe
you?
Manganiello.
Okay, well,
He follows us on Instagram. Which
And
means
Channing
we're
Tatum.
friends.
Channing Tatum. But all the Magic Mike crew, basically.
It's a good crew.
You put on Warlock.
Yeah, I put on Warlock. Oh my God. It's just its own thing. It throws away the original movie. It does its own thing. It still has the Warlock. This was like the most Roger kind of movie. I couldn't believe how much I loved it. And it's so violent, like how he's, just scalping people and throwing them out, of the car and into a pole, and just murder after of these crazy set pieces. And Julian Sands is even more evil, and he's like really brought the evil. He's like deliciously into it, and it's completely derivative of all these other movies. There's like bits of Suspiria in it, and there's bits of Terminator in it, but these English VFX craftsmen guys or special makeup effects craftsmen guys are genuinely so talented. And Anthony Hickox is one of those guys. Like, he knows how to do the makeup effects stuff. He's a makeup effects guy. He, knows how to shoot it. He just knows how to shoot that stuff and how to make it really fun and good. And I hear, were you telling me about his Waxworks movie? Or
No, that might have been Barack.
Okay, yeah, it was probably Barack. And it's like, I'm so excited to now.
No, it's Eric. Eric Clapp. Was telling you.
Eric. I am so excited to crack open all of his films now and explore them, because I was just completely blown away. And then I watched Warlock 3 and it was awful. And with apologies,
He lost the plot.
I couldn't finish. The truth is, I couldn't finish the movie.
But Mom loved Warlock 2 enough that she refuses to call it Warlock 2.
Yeah, she was like, it's its own thing. There is no
Warlock 2.
It is not Warlock 2. It's Warlock the Armageddon.
There you go.
And we have to respect it as Warlock the Armageddon, its own thing.
As Magic Mike Double XL.
Thank you.
Now bringing it back to that. That movie is almost uncomfortable to watch. I saw the original Magic Mike in theaters with my mom.
I think it's a great film.
Yeah, but we were like, oh my God, like, are strippers actually like this? Like, do they actually like throw you around and stuff? Like, this is insane.
I was like, I guess we have to find out. I don't know.
And then I watched Magic Mike Double XL, and I'm like, what is going on here? He's like a waiter now, and like a like he's
Yeah, it's a rags to riches now.
yeah, but like. Just blew my mind because now I've lived with Magic Mike in the real world where it's like they have the Vegas show where Vinny Guadagnino from the Jersey Shore is like one of the Magic
Is he
Mike.
really?
Yeah, he's one of the Magic Mike strippers in the Vegas show.
Okay.
I wish it
And-
was Luca Guadagnino. to be
No.
fair.
Oh man.
Yeah.
No, I think that's his last name. Vinny from the Jersey Shore. That's all you need to
Yeah,
know.
Vinny.
Vinny. But he is like, and Magic Mike's his big thing. And then you watch Magic Mike XXL and his business plan failed and like everything just failed. And it's like, but I'm living in the world where Magic Mike succeeded.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love the arc of that character, Magic Mike, and I love the fact that he views himself as being something more than
Yeah, like he wants to open a furniture store or something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like he has dreams. He has legitimate dreams, but he is not being taken seriously. And I just love the film. I think it's amazing. And the other one he did with Channing Tatum, the racetrack movie, or the robbing of a
Not Logan Lucky.
No,
Is that-
Logan
is that-
Lucky.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Shit.
yeah.
I actually also really loved
That's
Logan
just
Lucky
like-
and,
Underrated.
and Haywire.
Yeah.
Let's go.
That's actually my favorite Soderbergh movie.
It's excellent.
It's so
And I think Gina
fucking good.
Carano is so I just love Gina Carano. I think she is the cat's pajamas.
That movie's so fucking good. It's opening, it's like, yeah, you're in this shit now. It's just immediate like coffee to the face, like they just fighting.
Well,
and
just
it's
that
no music.
Just that Soderbergh could identify that she has this innate talent. As what, you're like an MMA fighter. Is that what she
Yeah,
was?
she was
But
an MMA fighter.
She's like an MMA fighter, and he just took that and he's like, just capitalized on it and made this international like espionage thriller out of it.
So
and,
good.
and Bill Paxton is in it, and I'll watch anything with Bill Paxton, and he's great in it. He's basically playing like, I don't know, Tom Clancy or one of these.
but he has a
guys.
bit part in it, basically, right?
He's playing her father.
Okay, that's right.
He
Yeah.
plays her father, who
That's right.
who has all these connections because he writes like Tom Clancy like novels, and so he's got all these government connections, and so he kind of knows how everything works. But he doesn't know the full story. His daughter was a Delta, who was she's a Delta who's just a badass, carved out of wood soldier. And so he knows that much. What he doesn't know is that, which we know, that like most of these people, when you're excelling as a Delta or as a Green Beret or as any of these people, you have a career path. And that career path is generally in that world of Haywire. And all of her scenes with him where she basically goes home to her dad because he'll understand. I'm kind of getting choked up over Haywire. I can't believe it. I actually love the movie. I think it's great.
yeah.
Sex, Lies, and Videotape, though.
Yeah, it's okay. Yeah.
Man.
James Spader. I mean, I'll take it because of James Spader.
Yeah, it's so good.
Like his whole thing, one key. I just want one key. Like and James Spader is so great. And that was
His sex trilogy, though, is everything for me. Sex, Lies, Videotape, then followed by Crash. Excellent. I love Crash. You hate it.
I don't really hate Crash. It's just.
and then the secretary.
And the Secretary. It's his sex trilogy. Gotta love it. James Spader.
Yeah, James Spader. Well, I mean,
You mean James Spader's sex trilogy?
yeah, it's James.
Yeah.
I was
James
like connecting the dots.
Spader's
We were talking about
sex trilogy.
Soderbergh Crash.
No, it's
I was
just
like,
James
Is there
Spader.
another Crash that
I'm just talking James Spader.
I watched Crash on Discord with my film club, which was
Are you talking about Crash, the Paul Haggis movie?
no, I'm
No.
talking no
Oh,
Crash
The Cronenberg film, the Cronenberg movie. Of
yeah,
course,
I
of
watched
course.
Crash. We did
Yeah.
not know what it was. A lot of people, it was their first Cronenberg movie. We randomly voted for it. We put it on. It was me and 12 dudes watching Crash. And it was an interesting experience for sure.
Traumatic.
It was
My fr-
exactly how it should be.
My friend Ruth Vitale was running Fine Line at that time. I think it was Fine Line. And she was an executive there. And I think running the company. And she greenlit that movie.
Oh, wow.
And at the very first screening of it, when she saw what had happened, she got so pissed, and she's like this like tough New York chick. She got so pissed, she started climbing over seats in the theater and started fighting with the director, with Cronenberg. Yeah, with David Cronenberg, because he was like laughing at how wicked he was. I pulled a fast one on them, and she lost it.
So he totally didn't sell it. In what it was.
And I actually don't really care for the movie that much. It's one of those movies that I would think that I would love. It's like J.G. Ballard and all of that, and also you would think that that's like the perfect kind of Cronenberg classy movie, but I don't know. I'm just not into it. I'm just not into the whole like fingering of wounds and whatever. It's just, I'm not into it.
So coming back to your work though, I wanted to talk about a few things. So I mean, we're coming up on 2 hours 40, and I don't know how much time you have.
Just keep
we're
going.
If we're chilling, we're
just keep
chilling. But I'm
going.
just saying, I have so many. I mean, I have so many things I want to ask, but
Ask
Just
away.
keep. He will keep going.
here's okay. So in Killing Zoe, you talked about this on Rogan, which by the way, I love that your Rogan episode opened up with, "Hey, here's how you kill someone with coffee." I was like, "We're fucking in, dude." Anyways,
It actually, I have to make a confession.
yeah.
It actually isn't coffee. It's actually a different substance. And I was asked to change it. To not say it out loud, and like to say what it actually was by my Green Beret pal.
Okay, do I need to edit that out?
No, I think it's because there were people online that were like, you actually can't kill people with coffee.
You actually can kill people with
But this
coffee.
Black Rifle
substance-
coffee.
You just you actually can do it.
Or
there is a way to
Horizon 2
do there is a way to do it, but there is another substance that you can inject into somebody that is basically untraceable.
Basically caffeine.
Yeah.
Basically.
I can't say.
Okay. Fair enough. Anyways.
I caught a lot of shit for that actually.
Okay. Well, I'll edit that out. I'll edit that out.
We do that all the time.
You can keep it in.
Oh, but
it's fine.
I
Napoleon
don't-
can have pyramids and elephants or whatever.
But anyways, so in Killing
Actually, wasn't Napoleon out in the pyramids?
I don't think he was.
No,
but-
he
No,
was.
wasn't he
Napoleon
Cleopatra?
shot the nose off of the Sphinx with a cannon.
No, it didn't. No, it was.
Wasn't it Napoleon who shot the nose off of the Sphinx?
This is a
with
big
a cannon?
debate. This was a big debate when that movie came out. A lot of nerds were like, "That didn't happen."
No, that happened.
Okay.
That
I mean,
absolutely
if you say so, Roger.
That absolutely happened.
The funny thing-
Napoleon, I believe it was Napoleon, shot the nose off of the Sphinx with a cannon.
Okay. See, a lot of like people were interviewing Ridley Scott and being like, he actually didn't shoot cannons into a frozen lake, and he's like, "Were you there?" Is basically his response.
His whole response was, "Man,
Yeah, fuck you. I made the movie. Like, I don't care.
Yeah.
You become a certain age, and that's kind of the attitude you start taking.
I fucking love Ridley Scott's
Yeah.
like, I don't give a fuck attitude. Like,
Yeah.
Exactly.
But
he's like, yeah, I put sharks in the Coliseum. Fuck you."
yeah, exactly.
it's not impossible, by the
Right,
way,
right.
that could have been real.
Right.
Like, the more we learn about our past, the more we realize that it's way more complicated than we understand, that our history is actually different than we know, that we are a culture with amnesia, like an entire world that has been hit with amnesia, and we've forgotten our past, and that there's large errors in time that,
Well, even the Alamo, that's taught in Texas history, and we think that it is a victory, one and all. That's how they teach kids in Texas.
It's a victory for manifest destiny, as defined by James Polk.
Right.
And his whole idea of from the river to the sea,
Yeah.
which I guess is kind of what it was. It was good for some people, and it was bad for others.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
But I kind of suspect that there was like entire cultures, and in fact that a lot of the buildings that we attribute to our settlers building were not built by settlers, that there was other cultures in existence, and that through and this is not even something that like doesn't even happen in modern days, where a plague will hit somebody and the buildings become empty, and we look at how buildings have been covered by mud and by
so Northern California.
you look at
especially.
old pictures around the time when Mussolini was undigging Rome, when he was uncovering all of the ruins, and you look at pictures from that time period, and it's like, what? It was all under dirt, and you see Rome, like they're digging out stuff, and it's like, what happened?
Right. That still happens today. Like people go in their backyard in Italy and they're like, oh shit, a whole vineyard.
Yeah, there's a terracotta floor underneath my or a tile mosaic floor underneath my cabbage patch or whatever.
Yeah.
So,
But yeah. Anyways, I was going to ask you about Killing Zoe.
so sorry.
No, you're good. You're good.
I digress a lot.
It's fine. It's
I
fine.
do a lot of digression.
No, I was telling them, it's like asking you a question is like tapping oil. It's like you hit it. And you're talking about stories. You're talking about like you and Quentin scooping up shit on a hill for an exercise video with Quentin Tarantino. And I was like, okay, well, we just asked you what advice you have for a filmmaker, but go off.
So funny
Let
when
'em cook.
people ask questions like that, I know exactly what story it's going to lead to.
Really?
That's
Yeah.
funny.
I'm like, okay, there's that question. It's going to lead to the John Langley exercise video, Dolph Lundgren video.
Yeah.
No, it's
It was a big
great.
moment in our lives.
No, mine too.
Quintessential moment.
Yeah.
Anyways. Okay, so in Killing Zoe, you talked about this on Joe Rogan a little bit, that the wide shot, the very Kubrick-esque shot that's in Killing Zoe, when he goes up into the close-up and he does a magic trick.
Yeah.
So that was an improvised shot that is kind of a compromise that ended up being like one of your favorite things from the movie.
Right.
So, but both Pulp and Killing Zoe, at least Killing Zoe in this one instance, it just has this one element of surrealism where it's like, what the fuck was that magic trick out of nowhere?
Yeah.
And then like Pulp has that sort of that,
It's square
yeah,
or things like that.
the square or the briefcase.
The musical notes
Briefcase.
coming out of the instruments.
Right.
in Killing
It's just
Zoe.
this random, like, makes this random head tilt in a movie. And both of those movies are seasoned heavily with drugs. So that kind of plays into it. But I wanted to ask you about the motivation, but specifically, and if you don't want to say it, you don't have to, but behind that just out of nowhere magic trick where he makes a cigarette disappear. And it's like, it almost seems like that whole part is in his like drug induced imagination.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if you just want to talk on that.
Oh, sure. Well, you kind of talked on it. It's actually, I mean, what happened was the movie was made for a very, very, very low budget. And so what that meant was I had this bank location that we found for almost free. And so we're shooting in this bank and we've got to shoot, let me think, which was it? All the upstairs stuff was shot first. And then we went and shot all the downstairs stuff afterwards because it accounted for a company move. You know, we only had so many lights. You can't light everything. So we lit up here and we have all of our lights in place. And once they're in place, it takes time to move lights. And so you don't want to be going upstairs, downstairs, upstairs, downstairs, upstairs, downstairs. And so, you know, it's almost like block shooting something that if you know you're going to be at this location 3 times in the movie, you don't shoot it in sequence. Sometimes you do, but if you can afford it, you do. But usually you'll say, okay, we're going to shoot all of those scenes that take place in that room on, you know, at the same time while we're there.
Right.
You don't go and come back and go and come back. It's just not efficient. And so I shot all the upstairs stuff first, and you know, it's all the action. It's all the machine guns going off. There's all sorts of stuff going on upstairs. It's complicated. There's, you know, extras, there's this and that. And I was falling a little bit behind in my schedule. And the bond company came. The completion bond company. And what that is completion bond is you basically take 10% of your budget and you're paying it to the completion bond company. And if something happens to the movie, they make sure the movie gets completed with or without you. Like they come in to guarantee the investment for the bank. And so the completion bond company showed up because I was falling behind schedule, and they're like, okay, this is going to be a problem. This first time filmmaker, let's visit the set. And they sent down a bunch of, you know, banker type guys, like, you know, guys in hard hats almost, you know, like, and I had a very, very good completion bond company, and they were actually, and have remained friends with them, believe it or not. But they showed up and it was a little intense, and it was actually, I mean, it's really scary when you're basically being threatened with being pulled from your film, and you're in this thing, you're trying to get as much as you can, and you're trying to get all your vision on screen. And then suddenly you've got people like looking over your shoulder to make sure that you're doing everything correctly. And a weird thing happened to me in that moment. I just went, fuck it. Fuck these guys. I'm just going to really like go for it now. And I shot all sorts of, like, I started altering like how I was doing things, and I was just doing wild shots, and you know, I just started like changing my way, and I kept telling them, when we go downstairs, I'll make up the time. It won't be as complicated as all this. I only have this, this, and this to do. And they said, well, you have to pull pages because you're going to have to cut pages. And so they basically told me, cut pages or you're fired. And so I looked at the script, and I looked at exclusively, because I was already shooting all the stuff upstairs. And so I exclusively looked at the downstairs, and I was like, okay, what are the big moments downstairs? And there was this moment based on the location, because when I visited the location, there was like in the basement of this bank, you know, in that whole basement where all the vaults are, there was this like manhole cover. And while we were on our location scout, I was like, let's open that up. And so I opened it up, and I looked down, and it was like, you know, went down to God knows where. And I was like, oh, that's like a sewer entrance to the bank. And I'll have guards come out of that. And then, so he's basically has told them, you know, he's made a warning to the guys outside on the phone, like, don't mess with me. And then he goes downstairs to see Eric Stoltz. And what he discovers is that the cops are coming in through the basement. They're like cockroaches coming out of the
you can
sewer.
vaguely hear them.
And he
plotting.
basically machine guns a bunch of. There's like a little machine gun battle that happens.
Oh, that originally.
Okay. And then the next shot, which I had already shot, is him. In fact, on the day of the completion bond company, was he comes back upstairs after they've done that, and he's like. Gets back on the phone with them. He's like, you want to fuck with me? You want to fuck with me? I'll show you who you're fucking with.
Attends, je vais te montrer ce qui se passe quand on m'encule, là.
And then it's when he grabs her to kill her, and then instead grabs the assistant bank manager and takes him outside and executes him. So I had to cut something, and I looked at everything, and I was like, well, I can't cut the fight at the very end, and I need this, and everything else was pretty, you know, tight, and I need to have them enter the downstairs, and I need to have the execution of the customer and the
assistant manager
and the manager guy and like all of that stuff. I needed to have all that stuff. And so I looked at it and I was like, well, that's the scene, and it's an action scene. And so I basically took those pages and I showed it to the completion bond company and said, look, I'll cut all of this action here. And I kind of oversold it. Like, I need this and that. I'm gonna this and that. I'm going to cut all these shots, and that's going to save us 2 days, basically. And they said, okay, you're good to go. We sign off on that. And then they made me sign off an agreement right then and there to like, cause they're like the bank. Okay. So, the time comes to go ahead and do that. And I was like, well, what am I going to replace it with? He goes, you know, he's just had a conversation with them. He goes downstairs, then he comes back up. What happens now when he goes downstairs? Yeah. And everybody kept asking me, well, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? I was like, don't worry about it. We'll figure it out. And Tom Savini was on our set. And Tom, you know, I'm a big Dawn of the Dead fan.
Oh, yeah.
I'm a George Romero fan, and especially of his Dawn of the Dead and Day of the Dead. Those two movies in particular, those are his, you know, crown jewels, I think. But in particular, I just love those two films. And so when I started making this movie, I was like, you know, I might never get to make another movie, you know, and so I want to make, you know, a movie with all the ecstatic things that I love. And one of those things was Tom Savini. Like, and so I called him up I found somebody who had his telephone number, and I just cold called him. And I said, hey, my name's Roger Avary, blah, blah, blah. And I explained what I was doing, and I'm making this movie, and we have no budget. And I have very little money, but I would do anything if you would do the makeup effects in my film, the bullet hits. And I explained to him that in Dawn of the Dead, in the elevator, when when Steven is in the elevator hiding from the biker gang that's shooting up the mall and killing all the zombies, at one point the Quentin character goes into the elevator, the character that Quentin Tarantino told us he played when we were working at Video Archives. He's like, oh, I'm in Dawn of the Dead. And I was like, you are? And he's like, yeah, I was a little bit part. And he like literally found the guy with Tommy gun. He's the guy with the Tommy gun machine gun. That's me. Like, that's me. And I'm, is that you? Really? And he's like, yeah, it's you. Are you really? And he had a leather jacket, and he kind of looked like a really weird version of Quentin, but okay, it's you. And he did that as an experiment. This is like totally Quentin, he's like, if I can fool Roger, I can fool all the casting directors in Hollywood, and that gives me a credit in a movie. And that guy wasn't credited. I don't think in the film. And so Quentin had figured this out. Anyhow, so that guy goes into the thing and he's shooting up at who he knows, at Steven, who's hiding above the elevator. He's like holding onto the cables of the elevator, and he shoots a gun up there. And in that moment, there's this bullet hit where he gets shot in the arm. And it's to this day, the best bullet hit I've ever seen in a movie. The way that the blood comes out and how it explodes upwards and the blood just the way that it happens is so convincing and real, and the actor sells it so well. I think it's one of my favorite moments in Dawn of the Dead. And I was talking to Tom, how did you do that? It was a squib, and he's like, no, it's not a squib. No, it's a condom. I was like, really? He's like, yeah, you just fill a condom with blood, and you tie it up, and you they had like a string of some kind, like a condom that's taped closed, something like that. And then we just pulled that off, and because it's pressurized, it just kind of explodes out.
Wow.
And so and then you add the gunshot sound. And so he was explaining to me all these tricks and how he does stuff. And then he started talking to me about Vietnam and his experiences in Vietnam, because he went to Vietnam. And that's one of the, like, you talk to Tom and he's like, when he explains like, oh, when I did Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 for Tobe Hooper. And I'm like, oh yeah, that scene where the guys get his head sawed partly off by a chainsaw while driving a car. He gets like, the chainsaw comes in and slices his head partly, and the guy kind of is like touching his head a little bit, like he knows that it's kind of, and that's also a really intense moment. And I was just, and he's like, yeah, that's a good moment too, but there's too much blood in it. There's too much blood. When that happens to you, when your head gets cut like that, it's just a small amount of blood that just comes out the arteries at the back of your neck. And like, he had this whole thing. And I realized in that moment, he's speaking from experience.
Yeah.
Like,
he's seen it.
He's seen shit. Like, Tom's been there. Anyhow, we had this amazing connection on the phone. And he basically said, listen, I'll tell you what I'm going to do, because I said, listen, this is what I have this much money, and we this is a low budget film, and we don't really have a lot of money, but I think we can. And he said, listen, I'm going to do it for free. You don't worry about, I'll fly myself out. He flew himself out. He paid for his own kit. He didn't accept any money. He just hung out on set for the entire film, doing magic tricks for everybody. Because he's an incredible magician.
That's crazy.
Like, he is an illusionist.
Yeah.
And he uses his illusions for his makeup effects work. And actually, this is one of the things, when you watch something like that, when you're seeing it something like the hand of man at work with doing makeup effects and art, you're watching something that is like tactile. When you're watching something that's just done digitally, if they just do it digitally, you're just watching what that software package is able to do.
Right.
And you're still looking at, there is artistry involved in that, of course, but not the way, it's not like Tom doing it.
I know.
Tom brought a kit because we had no money. He was like, oh, I'll just, with tissue paper and Vaseline and a little bit of paint, he made that burn makeup on that guard.
Yeah, it looks it looks traumatizing.
Yeah.
It's traumatizing.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, this is what it looks like when somebody's face gets burned, he told me. And so
You're like, okay.
yeah.
I'm glad you're doing makeup.
Yeah.
I'll be honest.
I mean, optioning for anything real over CGI is obviously the way to go. And I don't know if this was something that you guys talked about. I'm trying to remember if it was a Video Archives episode, but alligator. Where they're using an actual alligator and miniatures next to it.
Oh yeah, baby.
I fall in love with it, but when he turns in the sewer to find, and it's just the jaws of the actual alligator taking up basically an entire sewer system. To me, that is scarier than if it were CGI.
Well,
it was scarier than anything in Crawl.
Your
and I like Crawl.
Your eye knows what's not real.
Right.
Like, I know how good the CGI AI stuff is. All this AI stuff, it looks really good, but your eye knows that it's not real. And there's a kind of generic quality to everything.
yeah.
Because
Also-
everyone is using basically the same software packages.
Yeah,
And so everything's going to kind of look similar.
But where's the sound? That's the one thing where I'm like, okay, this AI generated thing looks pretty neat, but where is the soundscape on this? It's not going to exist because they haven't done it yet. That has not been perfect.
Runway is working with some sound stuff. They're working.
Well, that's cheating, Roger, because we didn't know about that.
They're trying really hard to, and they're doing a really good job. I mean, it's literally like if I call them up and say, "Hey, can you do this? Can you add, facial performances while somebody's walking and talking?" They'll say no, but on Tuesday you'll have it.
Wow.
And so it's evolving at a rapid pace, but I think like any filmic tool, it's not meant to take over everything. And I think this is something that everybody's thinking, is that AI is going to take over everything. But I think,
It's a tool.
it's a tool. It's going to be able to deliver something to independent filmmakers that we haven't had before. But again, it doesn't mean that you throw away your cameras. It doesn't mean you throw away your lenses and your lights. The very, very best AI stuff that I've seen, even though that guy last night, was claiming that the Chinese stuff was better, is the stuff that Kook was doing in he's not more than a title designer. He's a visual effects.
artist.
He's a visual effects artist, a graphic artist. But he does title design for me. And Kook he's a French guy. That's why he calls himself Kook. Or maybe that's his real name.
I have no clue.
I don't know. I just know him as Kook. And he's basically discovered that you still have to shoot your stuff, but then the AI can augment it. And that the best usage is to combine tools. And this is something I should have instinctively known after working on Beowulf. We're shooting Beowulf. It's fully CG. It's like, it's like this kind of sanitized video game cutscene version. I feel like it's okay saying that now after all this time, even though and I think Brendan Gleeson is actually my favorite, not only my favorite performance, and I love Ray, but Brendan Gleeson in the movie. I think he looks the best. His character is rendered the best. His performance is the best. Like, I think that Brendan Gleeson is incredible in the film, in Beowulf. But in the middle of making Beowulf, when we were very close to finishing, we knew that 300 was coming out, and Zumeckis ordered a print from it. And so we screened the film, and at the end of it, he just stood up, said, "That's it. We're done. We're toast." And he just walked out and went to Italy.
That's it. I'm gonna sit in a chair in Italy.
No joke. You get really scared when that happens.
Yeah,
when suddenly the captain of the ship is suddenly like, "That's it. It's over. We're toast."
Fuck.
So did Tom come up with the magic trick?
You're getting me back to Tom.
I gotta get back to Tom.
Okay, thank you.
The magic trick.
See, Gala keeps me on track. Like Tom once did this, like he would do magic tricks all day long, every day. And he did this one thing with Julie Delpy where he took a quarter and a cigarette. He's like, "Oh, do you have a cigarette on you?" And she's like, "Yeah." "Oh, do you have a quarter?" And she's like, "Oh yeah, I have. Here, I'll show you something." And he takes her quarter and he takes a cigarette, and then he holds it up, and he's like, takes the cigarette to the quarter, and he kind of starts twisting it and turning it. And he's like, "Hold on, I got to get it right." And then lo and behold, pushes the cigarette through the quarter.
Was it lit or no?
No.
Okay.
It could have been, but it wasn't.
Uh-huh.
And he just pushes it through, and suddenly the cigarette is traveling through the center of the coin. And Julie started screaming. Like, "Ah!" Like she had seen like some kind of like demonic possession of some kind. She flipped out, because that's how Julie is.
Well, you should know Chris is in love with Julie.
Oh, really? She
Full disclosure.
freaked. Tom had a special quarter that had a little that was designed to do this.
So he did a
and he
big
did a
switch.
little switch because he's really nimble with his fingers, because he's a magician. And he had us all like blown away. Every day it was something new. And so I told him, I said, "Hey, Tom, is there anything you could do, like a magic trick of some kind down there that would be," and I kind of described emotionally what I would, and he knew what my problem was, because he was with me, like almost for the entire shoot, definitely for the entire bank shoot. He was there. Whenever we were doing any like makeup effects, he was there, but for the bank, he was there the entire time. And he basically said, yeah, I'll figure something out. And then he and Jean-Hugues Anglade got together, and they figured out exactly what it was. And they told me, the actor.
Okay.
And they said, we did this a lot in the movie. We would surprise each other. I would surprise them and they would surprise me. And we would pull gags on each other and we would do stunts, and you would tell somebody to do something, but then there's something else there, you're trying to extract reactions out of people. And, so for example, in the hotel room, there's a shot, and it's one of my favorite shots in the movie, where Julie and him are talking together and they're kind of laughing and talking, and I dissolve out of it. It's the final shot in the hotel room with the two of them before the other character comes in. And what happened was, we were setting up for the shot and we didn't even have our sound ready, and they were just talking, and I was looking at them just kind of being natural together. And I just turned the camera on and just let it run. And it's a very silent camera. It was an Arri, and just silently ran. And I just shot, and it was just them waiting for us to shoot, but it was real. And so we were always searching for that. And so we would pull stunts on each other, and I would try to manipulate them and tell one actor one thing and then another actor another thing. And this was kind of the agreement that we all had. And so they were like, we're going to surprise you. And there's that one moment when the bomb goes off and when he throws the C4 into the vault, and then the camera comes back, it's with Eric Stoltz. And then as it comes back, they're all laying around like they're dead. And then they're laughing. They're like, psych, to him. Okay. That was another one where they just all suddenly did that. And they didn't tell me they were going to do that. They just did it. And so there was like a lot of playfulness on the set. We were having a lot of fun. The very best movie sets are really playful like that. They're very loose, and you're searching for fun. You're searching for things that are interesting and fun. And so I didn't really know what we were going to do, but I told him the shot that I was going to set up. And so I said, I want a Kubrick, to my DP, Tom Richmond, like a 0-point perspective right here. And looking into the room, like 10 millimeter, blah, 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 blah. And he set up the shot. I did my initial, focus position, focus marks, and we set all that up. And then I had no idea what was going to come. We did one take. He came walking down actually, I think we did two. We did a safety actually afterwards. And it was flash paper. You hold flash paper in your hand, you smoke the cigarette, and it's like you're using like a magic thing. And then you take the flash paper and then you use the cigarette to ignite the flash paper and then throw it. And so he did this little thing and just as a flourish to the scene. And then I had instructed Jean-Hugues, the direction that I gave him was, after you do whatever magic trick you're going to do, just walk up into a close-up. And then I just want you to start looking into the walls, and I want you to start seeing, like all your problems coming out of the walls. And whatever that means. And to him. And again, he's French, and I'm giving him directions in English. So whatever that abstraction layer. And so he did it, and he's an incredible actor. And he came and he did his magic trick, which completely surprised all of us. And then did the close up, and that was how that came together. That was a really long,
love that shot. That's a great shot.
That was an hour-long discussion about how that came about.
But keeping something like that in the movie, in a bank heist thriller, basically grounded in reality outside of all the drugs, I thought it's like a pulse check to the audience in a weird way. You're kind of like flicking them in the head. You're like, wait, what the fuck? Like, I love like those moments you have.
It keeps you engaged for sure.
Yeah. It's like this little surrealism that just like, it's so hard to articulate, but it's something I love about.
To me, the world is surreal. I mean, we live in a surrealistic, and we live in a magical world, and we tell ourselves that there's no magic, and that it's all. We tell ourselves that we live in this kind of pragmatic reality, but the fact of the matter is, like, weird things happen all the time. And I've seen things in my life that are absolutely unexplainable, absolutely bordering on like the cosmic.
Well, we heard about the devil door last time.
Oh yeah. I mentioned the haunting just a little
the haunting,
bit.
Yeah.
Did that make it in the episode?
No, that was all after.
No.
Fuck.
Do you want me to tell it?
You tell the story really, really well, so you can tell.
Okay. So we were living in a small house, and my kids were living in the same room together, but they were starting to get a little older, and my daughter Gala needed her own room and stuff like that. And so we started looking around at other houses. And while we were living there in Ojai, there are these like rock walls built by the Chinese in the 1800s, like after the trains were built in the race to the west, in westward expansionism. I don't know why I just looked at you, but
I'm like, I know all about it.
yeah, something to do probably with Manifest Destiny. This westward expansionism, by the time they got to the West Coast, the Chinese who had been helping build the railroad started building walls, all over California. At least that's what we're told. And these walls are like, 10 feet thick, 5 feet high. Like the Chinese clearly know how to build walls. Great walls.
Yeah.
And so they had there was this property, this Orange Grove property, that every time I drove by it, I was like, man, if that ever comes up for sale, I'm going to make a play for it. I'm going to make a play for that. I'd really love that. And
were you being drawn there, or
I just I loved the idea of this big wall that was surrounding this orange grove. And I didn't even know if there was a house on the inside. And then we went away to Europe to work on, I think it was the script I think it must've been Silent Hill. I went to Europe with my family to work on Silent Hill and to work on the script. And then I came back, and when I came back, all the trees had been cut down. And the property it turned out there was this little kind of, 1970s ranch home, like on the center of this 10-acre property, which was now clear cut and completely empty and for sale. And I was like, oh my God. And right around that time, Beowulf happened, and suddenly I had some money, and I was like, okay. And the property was for sale. And
we haven't even moved in yet.
No, we haven't moved in yet. And so, Carrie Ann Moss was the one who cut down all the trees. She
moved in.
She bought the property. Property went up for sale while we were within the months that we were away. Went up for sale. She cut down all the trees of the property and then put it up for sale again. It was like, I'm out.
Trinity from the Matrix got scared.
Trinity from the Matrix. Something happened. And she sold the house, and it was selling for like an oddly affordable amount, like for a property like that in California, in this community.
On 10 acres.
On 10 acres with this wall, blah, 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 even with a house on it. And I was like, it's actually kind of like, I don't want to say affordable, but like affordable. I could afford it. And so I went ahead and I bought it, and time comes where if this were a movie, we're preparing, and I've got movers and I've got painters, painting the place. And I've got the movers in Ojai, they move everybody in and out. And so they were the ones who moved Carrie Ann Moss out. And they tell me, have you seen the devil face in the bathroom? And I'm like, the what? The devil face in the bathroom. Have you seen it? And I'm like, no. And so I go into the bathroom, and in the wood grain of the door is this classical devil face, like with the horns and the beard, and like in the grain of the wood, made from the grain of the tree, had somehow made the classical face of the devil.
Staring at the bathtub.
In the wood grain, staring at the bathtub. Okay, so I discovered right around that same time that when Carrie Ann Moss bought the property, it was because the woman who lived there died. She'd slipped in the bathtub, hit her head, and drowned in the tub. And I guess while showering or while preparing a bath or whatever happened, dead. And then Carrie Ann Moss bought it, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so I'm like, okay, so this is the bathtub. And I wasn't going to tell anybody about the...
I'm in like 5th grade.
Oh, yeah. I don't want to tell them, in your new room, in the bathroom you're going to be using, this is where the old lady died. I decided to leave that out and not tell my family. But then looking at this devil face, I was like, okay, that's kind of weird. And it's looking at the tub, and the painters were there.
Paint rollers.
Yeah, the painters were there painting the kitchen. And I was like, guys, paint this door white.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Just paint it. which they did. And I never told anybody. I didn't tell anybody about it. If it were a movie, then, we've got, we're moving in, we've got empty boxes, and we're eating Chinese food on the floor. And, as we're all happy to have a new house and the kids are happy to have
It's like my first time to have my own room.
first time to have, second time.
hell.
You actually had your own room in Manhattan Beach when we
Yeah,
lived
but like
there.
when I was like 2.
Yeah. But, yeah, it was like
It was like a big occasion.
we had
We were excited.
the happy time.
Right.
But then, like a movie, the happy time suddenly started going a little south. And Gala would wake up at night in the bedroom kind of terrified. Sometimes screaming out loud, sometimes coming into our room
And just standing there.
in tears, sometimes walking into our room and just standing there and just staring.
God. Just Kubrick staring at you.
Kubrick staring, traumatized from whatever. And, she's like, I'm hearing sounds. There's something in the attic. There's something in the room. And I guess there was something moving around in the room. And so she had this lamp next to her, and
I tied a piece of string to it so I could
and she would lay there in bed in the dark. And when she would hear the sound, turn the light on to see what it was.
And I never saw anything.
Yeah, and I was telling
so happy.
And I was telling her the sound. Oh, it's heat exchange. It's the end of the day, and the house is cooling off, and as it cools off, the timbers. I'm making all this stuff up.
Oh, there's a mouse.
I'm a
there's
parent.
mice.
I'm a parent trying to calm down my child who's convinced that there's some kind of demon walking through her bedroom. And I'm thinking, there's the devil there in the bathroom. And then she tells me, and I keep hearing this sound. I'm like, well, what sound? It's like blub, blub, blub.
Oh my
Blub, blub,
God.
blub. It's like blub, blub, blub. And I'm like, oh my God, what am I going to
Oh, shit.
I'm freaking out about it. And I ended up having to start sleeping in the room. And she would sleep in my bed because she was coming into our room and then getting into
And
bed
I was
with us.
sleepwalking, and I've never slept in my walk. I've never slept walk in my life before that or after this.
Oof.
Never once.
And so she
you
she's
start
sleeping in my room. I start sleeping in
I'm
her
sleeping
room,
fine,
and
by the
I
way,
start,
now.
and then she's sleeping fine, and I start hearing the thing. And actually, even before that, you were like, something's up in the attic. And I'm like, oh, that's probably like mice or rats, or we're in the country. There's we're on a farm.
You told me
blah,
that you were
blah,
going to put
You hear, like, cloven
He
hooves
told
on
me
the-
that he was going to put a live feed.
Yeah,
in
I
the
said, what
attic.
I'll do is I'll put a live video camera up there with a monitor down here so you can see what's going on in the attic. And then I started thinking she's going to see
That's more scary.
like
Yeah.
some sinister
No,
movie
I
or
remember
something.
you told me that what I would start seeing is the live feed move towards me until it was just me
Oh my
on the
God.
live feed.
Oh, God. Oh, I'm just going to make a found footage horror film. How
Yeah.
about that?
Well,
How
yeah.
about that 5-year-old?
You're trying to rationalize these things and be normal, but in the back of my mind, I keep thinking about the devil door and the old woman that drowned in the tub, and
Yeah, so you started sleeping in the room, and you started
I
hearing
started hearing
too.
it, and I had this clock, this desk clock, this very nice Tiffany desk clock that Aaron Spelling gave me, and for a Christmas present one year.
And that thing's heavy.
And it's like this heavy brass. Is it Tiffany? Is that the company?
I don't know, but it's heavy.
Yeah,
it's a nice
Tiffany.
clock.
At Tiffany's, and it was like this heavy, beautiful, heavy, expensive brass
move.
wood clock. Doesn't move, like falling over. It's like I put it back up, the lights are off. I'm going to say, I turn on the light, it's fallen over again. I'm like, what the hell is going on? And so I call Samuel Hadida.
You're like, I don't even want my own room anymore.
Yeah.
If this is what rooms do.
But you know what, though? This actually ties into Killing Zoe a little bit, because at the time you were adapting Lunar Park.
Yeah, I was adapting Bret Easton Ellis's Lunar Park at the time. And in that book, Bret is basically me. And Bret and I are already very similar, but Bret tells the story of Bret. And yes, and I wrote American Psycho, and I did this, and I did that. And he describes that when he wrote American Psycho,
In the book, he's describing
in the
this.
book,
It's like it's
that
an autobiography. Basically.
it's an autobiography, and he's telling the story of Bret Easton Ellis. And at a certain point, it diverges from reality. And at a certain point, Bret, ODs while on the book tour for, I think, Glamorama. And he's on the book tour for Glamorama, and he ODs on heroin. And this actress friend of his basically takes him and cleans him up, just like in Less Than Zero, how Jamie does that to the Julian character. Goes and cleans him up, and he becomes a teacher living in New Hampshire,
married, straight,
with children, and he basically is. The book is kind of like a Stephen King novel. The house is haunted, and the American Psycho has somehow emerged from the pages of his book and is now killing people around the neighborhood.
Oh, wow.
And so it's like his character has come to life. And as I was working on the screenplay for Lunar Park, I'd be there, this was actually before you started sleeping in our room. When you were telling me about this stuff, I'd be working there writing, in those days, because once my kids would go to bed, I would write until like 2 or 3 in the morning and then sleep for a couple of hours and then wake up and,
do it all again.
Do it all over again, sleep a little bit during the day. And anyhow, I'd be there writing in the middle of the night in the dark in the living room, and I would suddenly hear, like that sounded a little more Japanese. Actually,
so there was a little Japanese man in the wall.
No, but I would hear this and it'd be like, what the hell is going on? One of those things where like you hear the
it would come from like our hallway.
The hallway, you hear the whispers, and then the minute you look down the hall, it stops. And so it was like, okay, I'm experiencing haunting. And then while I was working on Lunar Park, Jean-Hugues Anglade was having dinner in Paris, having dinner at a friend's house. He's walking home along the Seine, and some homeless guy, I think he was a homeless guy. A junkie, basically. Yeah, it was a junkie, for sure. That's how Jean-Hugues described him to me. That's how actually Donatien, his manager, described the guy. This junkie said, "Hey, Jean-Hugues Anglade," because he's a big star in France. He's recognizable to them. "Hey, come, have a drink with me." And he said, No, I'm on my way home. It's late. And oh, so that's how it is. And he sicked his Rottweiler on him. And the dog attacked him, started ripping him apart. Jeez. And the guy came and started kicking his face in. And he was put into the hospital. And he was terribly beaten. And this is while I'm writing Lunar Park, and I started thinking, oh my God.
Because it was by a junkie.
My character came to life and attacked my actor.
And I think the guy's name was Eric.
Yeah, and the guy's name was Eric.
It was a junkie
France named Eric. And so it was like, okay, I have to do, and I called Samuel Hadida, the French producer, at one point. We were working on something at the time.
He produced like Silent Hill, and he also produced
Killing Zoe. He produced
Lucky Day.
And so I have a long relationship with him. I call him up and I tell him what's going on. He's like, "Get out of the house."
He's like, write a character named Roger and give him $1 million. How about that?
Yeah, that's a great idea. Get out of the house. I'm like, "What do you mean?" He said, "Get out of the house." I can't. I just moved into the house. I have nowhere to go. I can't get out of the house. I've just moved in. And he's like, "Then get an exorcist." And I'm like, "Wait, aren't you Jewish?" He's like, "Yeah, but you're not. Get an exorcist." So I did. I got an exorcist.
You got everything. You got the Zohar came and blessed the house.
Yeah, I had
the door. James Vanderbeek gave me a Zohar and just said, when you feel afraid, just scan it.
Yeah, I covered my bases. I had the Chumash Authority.
The Chumash Authority came. You had
because like who knows what land you're on,
right? And
very frequently you're doing a construction or something in California, and you'll uncover
a burial ground
or something. Well,
especially up in Ojai.
And immediately you stop. You respect what's happening, and so I was thinking about it. It's like, well, I'm the center of it all. Like, we're here in the middle of this valley. It's not impossible,
right?
That this could literally be like Poltergeist,
right?
I literally was like, I'm a movie guy, and I'm falling into this, and I'm believing it. And so I called, and I had,
so we had the Chumash Authority, we had the Zohar, and then he had an exorcist.
Yeah, the
Zohar, the Kabbalah.
Yeah, it was like James Vanderbeek was on it, so he insisted, I'm sending the Kabbalah people out.
Are we sure it's James Vanderbeek or a sex crazed character from your work? He's like, give you the Kubrick stare and everything.
Yeah, and so he had those people come, the Kabbalah people come out, and they put a little Torah little Torah scroll on my door. I had an exorcism done on the place, and I had the Chumash Authority come.
But as soon as the exorcism happened, which I was not aware of, it stopped completely.
It all stopped.
I never slept walk again. I never heard.
It never happened again.
The ghosts are like, ah, man.
It went away.
Man, why'd they have to make that movie?
Yeah.
Now everybody knows how to get rid of it.
Yeah. And actually, I kind of wish I'd made Lunar Park because the screenplay was really, really, really good.
It sounds fascinating.
Yeah, they would have ended up in the Cursed Films documentary on Shudder, I'm sure. But.
Yeah, and I wanted an actor who had actually gone through the shit to be like, who had gone through a kind of ODing thing. I actually wanted Kiefer Sutherland to play Brett because I had all sorts of actual footage of him, like, dressed up as a beer bottle, slam dancing people and diving into people like, and because he went through a small period of very public,
Disorderly conduct.
yeah, thank you.
Yes.
Disorderly conduct.
Diplomatic way.
Yeah. And so I actually met with Kiefer, and he was very, very sweet about it. He didn't want, and I also went to Robert Downey Jr. I'd asked him, and he was
wow.
and he told me, there comes a point where you just want to make movies people want to see.
He kind of
Cut to Iron Man.
And that was the moment he was doing Iron Man.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
That's
Yeah,
fair.
There
that
you
was
go.
the moment.
Did you ever run into Carrie Ann Moss and ask her about the house?
No, and I hope to someday bump into
I
her
would love follow up.
because I'm
Yeah.
sure because something must have happened to her because they bought that place with the intention of turning it into a horse ranch. They cut down all the trees at great expense. That's not cheap to pull all the stumps from 600 trees or whatever it was on the property.
Yeah.
That's way more than 600 actually.
And also, after we moved out of the house, another couple moved in.
Yeah, and it all went bad.
Immediately got divorced, moved out. Then the next people that moved in tore down just leveled the property.
Yeah,
wow.
it had issues.
There's
Yeah.
something going on.
Devil Door No More.
Yeah. And my theory, actually, it wasn't my theory. It was Tom and Andy, my composer. His theory was, it's not the old woman. It's her husband. He maybe died in a farming accident. And he's the one who's upset. And he had this
Why
whole...
he had that, I don't know.
I just like the idea.
Yeah. Just messing with me. Just messing with
wild.
me in a vulnerable moment.
That's so insane. I love a good paranormal story. I don't want to
No, don't. I would never wish it upon
Yeah, I was gonna
my
say
worst
No.
I've never personally experienced anything, but I'm
I love listening to them.
I've
for
had
sure.
numerous ones. I talked to a dead friend once. I met with him and talked to him. I was like, how are you here? He said, I faked it. Everyone thinks I'm dead. How is this happening? And we talked about Eyes Wide Shut, and because
let's just talk Kubrick.
I mean, it was like it's my friend. And so we start talking, but what had happened was he had committed suicide. I'd been doing the Victor in Europe thing, like traveling
you
through
told
Europe.
this story.
I told the story at the thing. And then when I came home, he was dead. And I went through a very dark period of depression, and mostly because trying to understand, what is reality? It's not what you think it is frequently. It's only your perception of things. And so I was grappling with all this stuff, and he had left me all these notes and
The document.
the initial understanding
Yeah.
document that explains why. And and he was a music composer. And so he wrote,
genius, yeah.
he was a genius, and he wrote this 3-hour long music composition. And so I was sitting there trying to understand, and he had told me, we'll see, when we were kids, we had torn apart a $5 bill and said, when we, and I can't remember what year it was, but we're going to get together in 2025. This wasn't what it was, but in 2025, maybe it was when we were both 30. So whatever that year was. And we're going to use this to buy a cup of coffee together. And when he died, he left me the other dollar, and he said, still do it. And so I fell into this really, really, really deep depression. And I was really in a weird mental state. And I was my waking and dreaming periods became a little I don't know, mixed up, I guess. But I tell you that this memory that I'm about to tell you, I remember it as clearly as any memory I've ever had. And it is as real as any memory I've ever had. And so I don't know how to explain it away, but I was in Manhattan Beach, and I was walking right near Live Oak
On the
Park.
Greenbelt.
On the Greenbelt. Actually, it was the railroad tracks. And or it's where the railroad tracks used to be, and there was a green belt there now. And I was walking along that, and as I approached him, I saw him, And I was having this thing
this
like
in the day?
in the day,
Okay.
in the middle of the day. Like it's like walking out of this building and going down the street and suddenly you see your dead friend. And at first I thought it's somebody who looks like him. And then he came up and he smiled and he said, Roger. And I was like, Scott. And I was freaking out, like as one would. And because I had never processed that he had committed suicide. It had been months before I returned from Europe. It's like I'd been away in Europe when he did it. And when I got back, months had passed and everybody else had already processed this information. And I had no proof of death other than everyone telling me that this had happened. Like nobody else was feeling any emotion about it either. And so it was like really, really strange for me. And then I saw him and we started talking. And I couldn't believe it when it was happening. And then we agreed to get together again. And then he left and I continued on my way. And all that day I was thinking about it. Like, how did that happen? How did that happen? And I even told Quentin about it. And this was right around the time, like we were trying to get stuff going and stuff like that. And I remember I met with Quentin, I think it was Barney's Beanery in Westwood. And we were going to go to a movie. And I remember sitting down and telling him, and I think he thought I was going crazy. And I think I was going crazy. I told him what was going on and he kind of listened and didn't offer up any help or anything, but he was my witness, in that moment to what was going on.
Yeah. So we're going to see Jurassic Park or what? I don't know what to tell
and
you.
I know, as I'm telling you now, I know that it's not real.
Right.
I know that it can't be real.
Yeah.
Except for the fact that I'm not so sure that the fabric of reality is as secure as we think it is.
That's kind of what I think.
Reality is a kind of cumulative agreement on what's real.
Right.
But like to an insane guy who thinks that pigs fly.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And who am I to tell him that what he believes is wrong or false?
Yeah.
That's real to him. If it's real to him, it's real to him.
Had your friend aged when you saw him?
Only marginally. And it had only been a matter of months.
Oh, okay.
And so I hadn't seen him, and this was still like very fresh after I had gotten back.
Oh, wow.
And everybody treated me very, tenderly after that happened because they were convinced that I was like losing it seriously.
Yeah.
But I'm telling you, like, I don't feel crazy. I consciously realize this could not have happened. I think.
Right.
Except that things do happen. People see ghosts. Yeah. And, is a ghost or is a ghost just, the fabric of reality showing you a shadow of the past?
Yeah.
And a lot of
something.
people say, well, one of the things that I heard about like someone seeing a ghost for the first time was that like, no, I didn't see them with my eyes. I saw them with my mind.
Yeah.
And it's something completely different than the actual tactile way that we see things, something beyond our plane of understanding.
I had a ball lightning experience that was like that in Ojai, in that house, where
It was in the haunted house?
Yeah.
Yeah, in the haunted house.
Ball lightning is a weird phenomenon. That
Yeah.
I've,
And my mom saw it too.
and everyone will tell you, oh, it was a transformer blowing. But we were on a 10-acre property in the middle of the property, and there was no transformer even close.
yeah.
And so there's no way, but and here's what it was is suddenly I see the ball lightning materialize in front of me. And then
Just imagine you're just in a living room, just the fuck?
actually
Just Dr. Manhattan.
No, actually,
Yeah, just Doctor Strange just coming in your
but actually
living room.
first the power went out. The power cut. And then the ball lightning appeared, and then it disappeared, and then the power came back on. And and so everybody says, "Oh, that's a transformer that blew." But I saw the ball lightning.
Yeah.
And, my mom
And then I
did,
told
too.
my wife, and she was in a different room, and she saw it also. And
Did you see the same ball or a different ball,
no,
a different
so,
room?
so that's just it. Is I don't think we were seeing with our eyes. I think we were seeing with our pineal gland or with our brain, and it's just electromagnetism.
Yeah,
You know, and who knows?
this. I'm surprised this didn't happen on the Joe Rogan Experience. That's all I'm saying. This is a Joe Rogan Experience conversation for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
But just aliens going like, oh shit, put it in reverse.
It's like the crazy phenomenon when we do that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I saw all sorts of things then. I saw a bolide, or I think it's called a bolide, when I mean, it looked like a Volkswagen on fire, flying out of the sky, like flying right over our house, like a meteor, but like on fire. And I was with Andy. Were you with us also?
I might have been. I can't remember this.
And we sat there and watched this, like the size of a Volkswagen on fire, go right over my house and like crash into the mountains right near us.
Are you guys sure they weren't shooting Herbie Fully Loaded?
It's off the mountain.
Yeah.
Is that with Lindsay Lohan?
It is. Yes.
With Lilo.
Another classic.
Yeah.
That I knew we'd discuss on this podcast.
Certified.
I'm a big Lindsay Lohan fan.
Yeah, we love
actually.
Lilo.
She's great.
She's great.
Mean
Yeah.
Girls, can't beat it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we've done 3.5 hours. I say we play a few games and wrap this up.
That sounds good.
Okay.
It sounds great.
So,
Oh no, the games.
Is
just
it
do a couple.
Risk? Is it Risk?
yeah, let's start
we
again.
do
Because
Stratego.
that's only going to take like 12 hours.
Exactly. Yeah. Let's.
What are we thinking?
I think we should start with box office. We'll do dealer's choice on the box office. Like, pick a movie and we all over under Price is Right. Try and guess.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
And are you able to look it up? And
We
He'll
figure it
look
out
it up
after.
to
Yeah.
verify.
now, are you talking about real box office or reported box office?
That's exactly what I said.
That's so funny. Yeah.
Public knowledge.
well, because
box office.
because we know how things really work.
Public,
Yes.
like whatever the Google will say, or
Yeah,
Alexa.
so
she
public.
behaves.
Because we need a side conversation on what Lionsgate is doing, just in
Oh my
general.
God.
We'll have a call. We'll talk about it.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Anyways, okay. So,
So-
yeah, pick a movie, any movie, and
Pick a movie, any movie, Dad.
it doesn't seem fair actually if you picked a movie. Let's go ahead.
Well, but if I pick a movie and then I can't, do I play the game?
Yes,
Yeah.
you also play the game.
Yeah.
So I guess
So I'll
pick
just
one.
randomly pick a film.
Yeah.
Do you think it's probably safer to pick a recent film, because frequently we don't know what older movies?
Exactly.
Sure.
Yeah,
Budgets
probably.
were.
Especially one that you would mention. Probably is like no one fucking
Well,
knows
I
anything.
mean,
Well, let's mention one of the movies we've talked about.
I can
today.
pick
Yeah,
one
yeah.
that you talked about.
Pick one.
Magic Mike.
Yeah, let's
Let's
go.
Mike.
Perfect.
That's actually a really good one, because Soderbergh brings a big look to the movie. Fantastic big look to the film. He's got all sorts of stars in it that should cost a lot of money. But he's also shooting himself, and he's an efficient filmmaker.
He really is.
And
He
economist.
knows how to do things at a micro budget. He knows how to do things on a maxi budget.
Yeah. I've
And
always
so
said
he's all over the map in this way, and so he's actually a perfect choice for this game.
So we do
Well done.
the budget
you.
of the movie, and then we do box office.
Okay.
how
So-
much it cost to make and how much it made.
Oh my god, I'm bad at this.
Can't be as bad as I am.
Josh, you want to kick us off?
All right, let's go with Magic Mike.
Are we talking budget first or
Budget
Yeah.
first.
Budget.
Budget first, and then we'll do budget all the way around.
Okay.
And then we'll do box office.
Okay.
Budget. Give me $17 million.
I'm gonna go 12 million to make that Magic Mike. How much do dicks cost?
A lot.
12 million. Yeah. Channing Tatum. Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to try to break this down. Channing Tatum, he's doing it in order to work with Soderbergh, and they have such a good experience that they continue to work together on other films, multiple other films. And part of that is because he wants to work with him, and because he gets legitimacy from working with Soderbergh. I'm guessing he's making a couple $100,000 doing the movie, as opposed to what he should have been probably making at that period in time, which was probably millions of dollars.
But let me throw this
Per
in there. I
movie.
think he's also a part owner of the film.
Well, then he would do it for a price. He would be willing to do it for a price, and we're not
You're
concerned.
saying like a cheap.
we're not guessing.
Pick a number,
ownership of that.
Dad. Come on, pick a number.
Now, most movies, most Hollywood films,
If we look at 1927.
formula-wise, would probably
Pick your number.
I would say you're smart to pick 17, because it's like a Price is Right thing, because it would be underneath 20, which for sure the studio would demand that come in for under 30. At least I would think that they would.
Pick your number. Stop
I have-
stalling.
Going back to Black Monday.
But you know what? I'm actually
Factoring in the economic crisis of 2007.
You better be right
But I've got to
now.
also factor in Woody Harrelson. You know what? I'm going to go over 17, and I'm going to say 19. In a Price is Right kind of way to be kind of close to you, and even though the movie probably could cost 25 to 30.
But it's Soderbergh we're talking about.
Yeah, but it's Soderbergh.
My
so.
first guess was 200,000. I'll go with 4
million?
4
Okay.
million?
I'll go with 4 million.
That's not impossible.
I'll meet closer to you. I'll say 8.
Well, and actually, that is impossible.
All right. Alexa,
Pulp Fiction's budget was 8.
Alexa, how much did the movie Magic Mike cost to make?
I know about 3 Magic Mike movies.
Yeah.
And there are Magic Mike whose budget
Yes.
is $7 million US.
7.
7.
Magic Mike Double XL.
Did you say 7?
I said 8.
I think you won, right?
The Economist at work.
All right.
Yay.
Well, that's according to Alexa. So how much did it...
Well, and that's the arbiter of everything.
Yes.
Exactly.
Alexa, what was in the briefcase in Pulp Fiction?
She might be able to
Here is
answer.
an answer from an Alexa Answers contributor that I translated. In the Pulp Fiction movie Briefcase, there was the soul of Marcellus Wallace.
No reaction. Poker face over here.
Well, you've said what it is before.
I mean, yeah, I've said what it is, but it is and it isn't. I mean, the truth of the matter is,
It's a magic trick.
yeah, it's a magic trick. There's meant to be whatever you believe is in the briefcase. It's almost like not showing the shark in Jaws makes it more scary.
Yeah.
You know, if you show the big latex rubber thing, or if you show somebody what's in there, if you tell them, oh, there's the Ark of the Covenant, or not the Ark, the Holy Grail.
Yeah.
Somebody once said that there was the Holy Grail in there.
Or the diamonds from True Romance.
Or well, no, it's from
Reservoir
Well, no, actually,
I know your favorite
Yeah.
now.
it would have been the diamonds from because there was a time when those scenes kind of crossed over and connected, and
Right.
and there's briefcases in both movies. And anyhow, I still can't believe $7 million is a good price for that movie.
Bananas.
The fact that you won.
All right.
No, I'm like,
But now we have to see how much it made.
it actually
$200,000.
no, it made like $250 million.
Yeah.
$200.
How much did it make?
Is that your official
No,
guess?
is that your guess?
I'm just gonna guess that because I like. Are we including home video?
No,
No,
box
just
office.
theatrical run.
Theatrical box office,
budget, yeah.
maybe not so much. I'm going to say it made $100 million. How about that?
Okay.
Okay.
Going around?
Yeah.
So it's $200,000. No. Was it really that big of a hit?
I think it was a pretty big hit.
They
yeah.
made 3 of them
Yeah.
Well, and a Vegas show with
It's a
Vinny
franchise.
from.
and a Vegas show. It's a very loved movie.
Yeah.
Okay,
it's-
I'm gonna go with 50 million.
I will go 75 million.
We go 65 million.
We'll say 125. Alexa, how much did the movie Magic Mike make in theaters?
From StraightStimes.com. The 2012 film, Magic Mike, was a surprising success, grossing $167 million US
win.
globally
No,
against a
no, you
7
win.
million.
I think
I
you
said
said
one-
You said 200, right?
No, you said
I
150.
originally said
I think
250.
you said. Well, I don't know. Someone won
whatever.
over
That's
there.
great.
Let's
And
go
then,
to
and then you
that.
said 120, right?
125.
125. See, I think you were closer
Oh, yeah. he's
I already
closer.
forgot.
because I defaulted to 100 because I thought that's a pretty good
Yeah.
I knew it would
I
make at least 100.
lost.
I knew it would make at least 100 because that's when everybody ting, ting, like their eyes turn into
Yeah.
dollar signs.
Yes, exactly.
They get all excited and they start
It's franchise time.
They start
Yeah.
planning 2 other movies at the same time.
And a Vegas show.
Yeah.
Featuring
And
Vinny,
the Vegas
Vinny
show.
from.
And the all-female reboot,
Yeah, and-
Magical Michelle.
And we can probably
That's a great idea.
yeah.
we can probably thank Magic Mike for not thank but blame Magic Mike for Channing Tatum basically retiring early. Has he retired early?
No,
He's
he
done a
said he
couple
was.
things.
did
was it-
Just Blink. He did.
He was in Deadpool.
He was in
That's right.
Deadpool?
Just Blink. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right.
Yeah.
Just blink.
He's still doing his thing.
Yeah.
Was he in the
Is
first?
that another one that you famously hate?
Wait, was he in the first Deadpool movie?
He's in the third one as...
He's playing that guy that he's always wanted to play.
Gambit.
Yes.
Gambit. He's playing Gambit that he's been trying to play since the OG time.
That was one of those sneaky cameos that they did, but he wasn't marketed for it at all.
Right. It
But
was a
he's-
surprise.
Yeah, he's like, I'll be in it, but don't use my name.
Yeah, and he also follows the podcast. Shouts to
Yeah.
Channing Tatum.
Tatum.
Best friend
Does he
Channing
really?
Tatum. He does.
Yeah,
He does.
I love Channing Tatum. I love Magic Mike. Let's be honest. I love Magic Mike. I also like the Roman centurion movie he did. He did this movie about a Roman centurion who's in Britannia at during
That time period?
during that time period. I'm trying to remember the name of the movie. It's fantastic. I love it.
Don't remember the name.
I've never even heard of that.
Yeah.
At least I think he's in that movie.
I think we have. I think we have our actor game.
Yeah, let's do Channing Tatum
Oh
actor.
my god! Oh no!
So basically, you just name movies he's in, and
If only you remember the Roman
Oh my
centurion.
God, I can't remember any of them. Magic Mike, I'm starting.
there you go.
Cool. There you go.
21 Jump Street.
Deadpool and Wolverine.
Haywire.
You said that already. Fuck. Son of a bitch.
DQ.
Yeah, I'm out.
Yeah.
I'm out.
Luke Lucky? Or Lucky
Luke.
Logan Lucky?
Yeah.
Do sequels count or are sequels out?
Sequel's out.
Wow.
Okay. This is the end.
Hateful Eight.
Come on, guys. What are we doing here?
Glad someone said it.
Thanks.
Channing Tatum. Jeez. Step Up. That was him.
Yeah, he was in the first. Pretty sure.
All right.
That's a dance movie where he met his wife or ex-wife.
I
Sorry.
cannot remember the name of his Roman centurion movies. I guess I DQ at this point.
Dear John.
Wow. Wow, that's great. I can't believe you pulled out Dear John.
Don't Blink. Have we said that yet?
Just Blink.
Ah, fuck you.
I mean, he was like something lucky. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, whatever.
Well, you can have it.
Well, I don't have any more. I'll say that.
Channing Tatum was also in.
Oh, I know one.
Oh no! All right.
Gala's,
Is it possible Gala's going to win?
She's
The Channing Tatum?
She's gonna eke
Making
it
up for her
out.
Jeff Bridges, where she had 2 movies.
Yeah.
For Jeff Bridges, man.
Bugsy Grapes.
All right, I don't got it.
No, don't even. Okay.
Deadpool 3.
I already said
He
it.
said it. You're out.
No, he didn't. Wait, you did not say Deadpool 3 in
I
this
said
thing.
Deadpool and
No, he-
Wolverine.
Oh,
which
you
is,
did? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Deadpool
The
Wolverine.
official name.
Excuse me. Magic Mike Triple XL. I
Like,
think
like Warlock Armageddon.
Yes.
There you go.
Okay, so we're all out on that
Wait,
one, right?
Sure.
wait.
Come on, Gala, you got this. You pulled out. I can't even remember Dear John.
Dear John.
You pulled out Dear John. That's I think we have that on DVD.
We do actually because I swapped PS3 games with my crush when I was in 7th grade with Dear John as a joke.
He is my resistance.
Yeah,
You swapped my PS3 games.
kids. I put Dear John in there. I thought it was funny.
Oh,
Trying to
okay.
do research for Silent Hill. He's like, the fuck is this?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't have any more. I give up.
We're DQ'd. We're DQ'd.
No.
Womp womp.
That's it.
So let's do a different actor. We got to bring up one that we've done on the show already, or that we've talked about on the episode. Who else is it?
Who else did we talk about a lot this episode?
We talked
The Rock, Dwayne The Rock Johnson.
God.
Let's do it.
Fucked.
But you're like the super fan.
No, he will win.
No,
Just
the
know
other
that.
one is Eric Stoltz. Is that we talked about?
Or we can do Eric
But
Stoltz.
I think Dwayne The Rock
or
maybe-
Tom Savini. He does act.
I think we'd all be done except
Roger,
for you.
prepare to be bested because we're going with Dwayne The Rock Johnson,
Okay.
and I'll kick us off with I don't know the rundown.
How did I know you were going to say the rundown?
A great movie directed by Peter Berg.
Red one.
Come on, Dad, you got it.
Just name a movie.
No, I'm having one of those sudden blanking moments.
Yeah.
It's the music.
No.
Okay.
It just wipes
Yeah,
the
the
hard
music.
drive.
The music is messing with me. Oh my God! And he's in everything. Hobbs and
Yes!
Hobbs and something. Hobbs and Crockett? No, Hobbs.
Come on, Dad.
Hobbs
What is the
and-
movie a spinoff of? What is that movie a franchise of? Come on, they drive cars.
We got lifelines now?
They drive
Oh yeah, Hobbs and it's fantastic. Not Fantastic Four.
Fantastic and the Furious.
I'm DQing.
No. He got it. Tom.
Fast and Furious.
Hobbs
Hobbs and
and
Shaw.
Hobbs and Shaw.
Take it.
The pacifier.
A great one.
You're out. That's Vin Diesel. You're out.
Oh, and that's
His
like
enemy.
almost
That's
a
his enemy.
slag.
Oh my God, that's his enemy.
That's his.
His
That's
greatest
all.
enemy.
I take a
Well, no,
great
but you know
offense.
what?
No, that's his greatest enemy, though.
He's so good that he's even in playing his enemies role.
There you go.
Even his enemies
I'm just
are
gonna-
unmemorable.
Let me just
That you
apologize.
just remember The Rock instead of his enemy.
Let me just
You're back in it.
apologize to his audience, like to the audience of this show, that I am so bad at this game that I even did the wrong actor.
You basically
Thank
almost
you.
won the last one. Though, so that's fine.
I'm out.
Yeah.
In the theme of those types of movies, I'm going to go The Tooth Fairy.
Tooth Fairy. It's a solid pick. Quite pedantic though.
I'll eat my shit.
Let me with Faster.
Is that in the Fast and Furious universe?
No.
Okay. Nope. Different Fast thing.
Just a great car movie he did.
Oh, that's funny. All right.
Independent film starring The Rock. It's a great movie.
Gotcha.
Check it out.
Have you done like a rock special yet on this show?
No, we haven't.
You should.
We haven't because I let them have their thing. But eventually we're gonna do.
No, you do not.
Wait, don't name all the movies because you're gonna name them all.
I let them have their
Right.
thing, and they can drink patty water.
You can drink out of the garden hose outside.
We do all sorts of films, all right. But we're gonna do some other Rock movies along the way. We haven't done a single one.
Yeah, I'm getting the hard. Jungle Cruise, has that been said?
That is him.
That's him.
Let's go.
Journey to the Center of the Earth.
There you go.
I have one. Jumanji remake.
Roger.
Wait, that's it?
I hate to say it.
Is that wrong?
Incorrect title, my friend.
Oh my god.
It's Journey to the Mysterious Island.
In the center of the earth.
Okay, no,
Wait.
that's
Just devolved.
no, that's
completely.
blowing it. That's actually literally blowing it. I should have known that title.
Is it?
I'm
I
really
agree,
that?
Roger.
Is
Yeah.
it really that?
Are you
Are you
sure?
gonna question him?
I'm ahead. Is there
I'll tell you
Mandela?
what.
Journey
I'll
to
tell-
the Center of the Earth is with Brendan Fraser, sir.
Oh,
Journey to the Center of Journey to the Mysterious Island is Dwayne The Rock Johnson.
okay. All right. I didn't know that. I have a Mandela effect
I'm
thing.
just-
Oh my
I'm
God!
out.
Wait a minute. I was thinking of the other one.
With Brendan Fraser.
No, I was thinking. Wasn't it Land of the Lost? Is that him?
No, that's
Will Ferrell.
Will Ferrell.
No, you're probably thinking of Jumanji reboot,
Yeah, I must be thinking.
which
about
I'm gonna save them out.
Honestly, the original Jumanji, if we're talking facts here.
Oh my
Jumanji
god.
There we
is
go.
so scary.
Yeah, those
scary.
spiders actually.
me up.
When those
That's- no.
spiders.
Yes.
That's one of
No,
the
yeah.
reasons I hate monkey movies.
Scarier than
Completely
arachnophobia
same.
are the spiders in Jumanji.
Yeah, they are terrifying.
Yeah.
The
They're
monkeys
terrifying.
in
Big giant-
Jumanji.
Those
Yeah.
spiders are like children's films.
Spiders and monkeys I do not fuck with. Spider monkeys? Fuck you. I'll go Pain and Gain.
Pain and
Oh! Of course, Pain and Gain.
a Michael Bay classic.
Not just a class. Michael, it's his art film.
Yeah.
Like
a low budget, he
it's that,
calls
and
it.
that's a low budget. That's a Michael Bay low budget movie. And
$65 million.
yeah, I mean, I
I was
honestly,
gonna do a
He
big
went-
low
he
budget indie. I'm a kind of an indie lifer.
I am such a fan of Pain and Gain. I think Pain and Gain is not just Michael Bay's best movie. I think it's not just his art film, but it's one of the better movies I've ever seen.
You heard it here first.
love
Let's go.
Pain and Gain. I think it's an
But
amazing.
you did not choose
I'm
it.
jealous of Pain and Gain.
When you come back on the show next time, which you won't, he'll refuse, but we will do Pain and Gain. That will be an epic episode.
That would
Okay.
be amazing. Yeah, that would.
Great.
We would love to do like a specific movie if he ever comes.
I mean, that moment where he's got the tongs and he's flipping hands on the barbecue, and I love the subtitles like, yeah, this really happened.
Yeah.
Like that movie is so loose that and that opening scene where they're just running and he's shooting with every possible camera that you can
Yeah.
shoot with.
Yeah.
It's the best argument for being completely agnostic to format.
Yeah.
And those-
I just hands down to
was a
Michael
fun
Bay.
Got to give it up to him. And that
Yeah.
goes to anybody that says The Rock plays the same person in every movie, all right? Check out Pain and Gain.
He's great in the movie.
Okay, so I know that
He's
you're
excellent.
gonna
Great.
like.
I should have named that as the first film. I can't believe I.
It's just you two left, and I know that
Wait.
you're. Yeah, no, didn't you like forfeit, or did you get it? Okay, what's your movie?
I think
Wait,
honestly,
what's
I've lost
his?
the plot.
I've lost the plot. What's
I've
his?
lost it. Let me just pick, I don't know, one of the very many that I know. Walking Tall.
Good one.
Better than the original, I'd
Yeah.
say.
Well, I mean,
Don't get started on it.
yes. I mean, of course, probably, but yeah. Okay.
An 80-minute banger.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Get Shorty.
Doom.
Nope.
Is it 80 minutes?
What does
The
it?
Walking-
Get Smart. Fuck.
Nope.
Whatever,
That's
doesn't
Steve
matter.
Yes.
Carell.
Yeah.
Oh, he is in that.
He is in that.
Yeah,
but
fuck.
you're thinking of Be Cool, which is the sequel to Get Shorty.
I like
That's
that
it.
you know what he's
Wow.
thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a really funny scene actually, but whatever.
And so Doom.
Doom.
Yeah.
All right,
I was
fine.
I was attached to direct him.
Oh, I know.
What?
That was the I was. It was
Wait, pause it.
fucking
Pause it.
music.
Pause
Hold
it.
up,
Yeah.
hold up.
Yeah, no. We can't not talk about you almost directing The Rock for what?
just very briefly, and then it didn't happen. It came apart, and then
Were they like
They
you
came back
did
together.
Silent Hill and
They-
so
well, they just wanted to do a different movie than what I was thinking, and
So what were you thinking now?
well,
Did you have the first person?
John Carmack and John Romero, the guys who did the original Doom game, they actually wrote the plot of the movie on the original release, the physical media release of Doom, which you could like get for free, I think, in like Fry's back in the day.
So cool.
And on there in that like CD pearl case or whatever it's called, they wrote down the plot, and the plot is actually fantastic. And I won't give it all away, but I just wanted to do exactly that, and that's not what they wanted to do. They actually already had a script, and they didn't want to take the time to rewrite, and I was out.
That's fair, but I mean, I like your idea a lot more.
Yeah,
but I was
Go
really
to
excited.
the source material.
Well, then I went and instead tried to do Return to Castle Wolfenstein, and
another
I
movie,
would love that.
Another thing we wanted to ask you about.
We did want to ask you about that. Is that still?
Well, we can talk about it, but maybe we need something for next time.
Yes.
Yes.
Agreed.
All right, I'm down. I'm
Yeah.
down. All
Wait,
right.
I want you to rapid fire as many Rock movies
Yeah.
as you can.
I'm
you're
still in this
you're
bitch.
Still in. I only remember one more Rock movie. So I need
It's
to...
your. I just said Doom. No, it's you.
The Scorpion King.
Reno 911, the movie.
Oh, great cameo.
Yeah,
I don't want to get myself disqualified since it's the same character.
we
so.
did say movies that he stars in, didn't we?
No, it's just
No, it's
movies
just
that
movies
he's in.
movies that he's in.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just like everything.
Yeah.
My heart is beating.
All right, The Rock. He's been the Smashing Machine.
That's not out. Fuck you. All right.
Technically, he's been in it.
Yeah, use brain power.
He's going to his mind palace.
Brain blast.
Got a blast. Yeah, I'm out.
Okay, the only other one I can remember is Black Adam.
Oh,
God.
We love that movie, Zoa Man. Let me just go with Fighting with My Family.
I don't even know
just
what
keep
that
going.
one is. Yeah, just keep going.
But that's
All
just-
right.
What is that? Something he did to
Is that just something he does?
pay for his mother-in-law's guest house or something?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he did. Well, he financed it because it's a wrestling movie, and he happened to be in it, and he plays himself. He's great. How about this is ridiculous. The Mummy Returns.
We already. Okay, you.
I know, that's why I said I didn't want to disqualify myself.
But now we're just listing movies.
Now we're just
There's-
rapid,
Yeah,
just
yeah,
rapid
okay.
fire. I just wanted to know his knowledge.
Sure,
Yeah,
sure.
you guys got to go back and forth.
No, he's already he's out.
Oh, you're out,
done.
you're out.
He's
Yeah.
out, he's out.
Josh won.
Yeah. Congratulations to me. The real winner of this podcast. It's ridiculous.
Well, we made it to the end. Let's
wrap it up.
Let's wrap it up. Thank you for listening to There It's Many Movies. Roger, Gala, thank you so much for coming. Thank you for coming to Texas. Thank you for coming to the Texas Theater, hosting some awesome,
Thank you.
awesome
thank
screenings.
You, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you.
That's your camera right there. Whatever you guys want to plug.
Do you want to say anything to them, or do you want me to say it?
Patreon.com/video archives to hear episodes of Video Archives.
Yeah, and just thanks, guys. We love that there are too many movies, guys. You guys are the best. How many times can I say guys in a sentence? I don't know. But thanks, Alex, Josh, and Chris for always having us. And we love Dallas Fort Worth. And so we'll be back.
It's our pleasure. Later, Toads.
Thank you.
B.
Youngie.
Bye.